So we'll call the meeting to order, 6:44. Apologize for the late start, but we had a couple of things to dish out, okay? We have no minutes to review because she's not here, and she didn't get them to me because of her mom, okay? Everyone have a copy of the agenda with them?
I do not, as I was unable to print.
Okay, I've been there and done that. Anybody else not have an agenda?
I don't either, but I kind of would. Just
There's a
roll.
copy right
Okay.
there.
I
I can look at them right
I
now.
can burn some
Okay, well,
copies.
I've got it, and so,
Just roll.
okay, old business. We're gonna talk briefly about resuming our tours of businesses, okay, which we hadn't had an opportunity to do. I think we talked about, Denise, you're really, paramount in this because you're gonna be doing the photographs and all of that. So if you could tell me what day of the week might work best for you, we'll work around you, because the rest of us who will be going on these tours have a little bit more flexibility.
I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty flexible too, other than Wednesdays is usually a training day
Right.
for me at Lamakia, so any other day besides Wednesday
Okay.
is usually good.
Okay.
So, and where my Wednesdays did fizzle out a bit because I ran out of businesses that were willing to participate. I had messaged a couple through Messenger,
Yeah.
but I didn't really get any responses, so
Okay.
kind of fizzled because I just I was hoping once I started getting out there and actually meeting that I
Right.
could ramp that up again. It just wasn't really working by Messenger. I reached it as many as I could that way.
Well, I think that, we've mentioned at past meetings, I know Katie was involved when we were doing the first tours, I think Peter came on some as well. There is a reticence amongst the businesses. I know that when we were, making our schedule for them, and Ryan was calling like 2 days before to tell them that we're gonna come, and they're like, why, how come you're showing up? They were, frightened by it. So maybe that's, part of it, not understanding what our intention of being there is. But what day do you want? What day works for you?
I think we weren't, did we talk a little while back, maybe Thursday
We did, I
mornings
thought
or
Thursdays,
something?
and I wanna
Yeah.
make sure that that's still okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna do, and so first on our list from pre-COVID, okay, is the country trails, okay? They, I had gone to them 2 years ago or whatever it was. They were very, they didn't have a lot of inventory because when I approached them, it was winter months, and they had asked for us to come later in the season. And the same thing actually with time and place as well, okay? So she's kind of been waiting for that, let's say, and so I'd like to get those both done.
And Keith too, at Plainview. 'cause
And
he
Keith
did
too, that was
message
an
me.
add-on from
Yeah.
our original. If we can, listen, if we can fit 3 in on each time, I'm fine with that. If we can only do 2, and it seemed like we did like the Johann's place, the tax,
Yeah,
what the heck?
I can't remember off the top of my head either.
Well, you're not as old as me, you have no excuse.
It's been a long day, okay? You have no idea.
The tax.
Yeah, next to the Pizza Palace.
Yeah, next to the, Pizza Palace. And we did Kelly's, and that was all we
Yeah.
fit in for that day. And then we did the Pizza Palace, and I think Giacomo's another time.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're getting 2 in each time, because afterwards we do like to sit and talk with the owners and see how we can help, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just shoot for the first one, and we'll put Keith on the next go round,
And
okay?
maybe you could do Keith and, the lady across the street.
Oh, yeah,
Heart to Heart.
Heart to Heart.
Yeah.
Consignment shop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hard. Well, I did her in the newspaper. Okay, yeah, we went to her and I did her for the newspaper.
Yeah, we
put her in
went
the
there, but that was for a whole separate.
Okay, so that's
That was
a
just
good
checking.
plan. I like that. So we'll do,
Kathy.
Yes, thank you.
country trails, time and place. And this is like perfect time to hit them,
Yeah,
because they're like, you know? So this is, the first one. Number 2 will be, what's Keith's place? Plainview.
Yeah, thank you. Heart to
Plainview,
heart.
and then Heart to Heart, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then are you going to schedule them and then, or am I scheduling?
You know, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me at all. You know, it's Thursday, you're gonna be there. I'm happy to schedule it. I'll do that. Yeah, okay. Typically, we did it about 10 o'clock in the morning. I think we were finished around 12 noon, something like that.
Yeah, we meet at the coffee shop.
Yep, so we'll do 10 a.m. Okay. Okay. Project updates from members. Denise, you've been working on your project, which is the Facebook page, which is terrific, and I thank you for your attention, and it's just terrific. Is there anything that you want to add? Is there anything that you want to incorporate into what you're doing on Facebook?
I want to get back into doing the Where Am I Wednesdays
Yes.
because that
Yes,
was engaging.
yes it
Yeah,
was.
everything else, I feel like I'm just resharing stuff Katie's posting.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
You know,
Okay.
but the real ultimate goal would be for the businesses to be using their Facebook business pages, updating their Facebook pages, because that way I can, I end up sharing a lot of the same businesses because they're the ones using social media all the time, and that stuff comes up in my feed, and then I'm grabbing it, you know, but it seems like it's the same businesses that are always posting versus then there's a lot in that barbecue, I never received
I
a
don't think
response,
he's
so.
doing it, somebody said further down that they met.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so.
I was like, oh man, that looks
You
good.
know, I noticed the other day, because within the past couple of weeks, my husband and I have asked or tried to call for pizza or
Yeah, no
sandwich
pizza.
from there.
Yeah.
Well, they're closed,
Yes.
you know, they're on vacation.
Yeah.
And yet, when you go to their Facebook page, it says open.
Well,
I did it
yeah.
just last night,
Yeah.
okay? So, it might be a good idea. I know a couple of months ago, you talked about maybe helping people bump up their businesses through Facebook and, you know, offering them some, you know, tricks and trade or whatever. That might be something that, you know, you want to look into farther. I know that it was an interest of yours.
Right, I'd like to do that, like a workshop.
Yeah. Okay.
It's, you know, things were looking like brighter, and now things aren't looking so bright again. So
Right,
I
right.
don't know how that's going to, you know, if we'd be able to pull it off or not in the
Okay.
fall. It might be something to shoot for the spring, if,
Right.
you know.
Right,
I'm not sure how comfortable people
agreed.
attending.
But, you know, keep that on your agenda, let's say, for something that you might want to bring out to the public, you know, in the fall, or, I mean, after fall, after winter, and whatever, and go from there, because I think it's, I think it's a good idea. Okay, Danielle, you and I are with the town center, okay? And of course, John Hume is no longer with MRPC.
Yeah.
MRPC?
Yeah.
Our account, if you will. You know, that was where, if anybody is not remembering what that was where we had been granted the Delta grant, okay? And so we get technical advice from somebody with like towns, if you will, that's, you know, towns that are similar to ours in size and that kind of thing. He's no longer with them, he's no longer employed by them. And so our account has been moved over to a woman named Jen Burney, I think is, or Burney, Jen Burney. And she'll be contacting me, I hope shortly, and I'll make an appointment. Katie, I'd like you in on that as well. We spoke about that. And Danielle, that's the project you and I are working on. So that's what's current with that, okay? With John Hume leaving, I think there was a little bit of, you know, delay in what was going on. So I'm not hearing from them yet. As soon as they do, we'll set up that meeting and we'll go forward with that. Peter, your project was with the small business guide.
It was, and I sent an email, and I called, I forget what time. It was
Mallory?
Yeah,
Yes.
and, spoke to her again about the issue, and we had discussed, basically why it wasn't moving forward. And there's little stalkers there that she's trying to work out for us,
Right.
but here again, it's been,
9 or 10 months since I put my first request in.
and it's been about 4 months since.
You've
I
taken it
talked-
over.
Talked to her, yeah.
Okay.
And it's just falling on deaf ears.
Okay.
But I think she's hung in the middle, if you know what I mean.
I do?
We gotta find a way around that.
Well, the only thing that I can think of to, in order to, have this, not lose its momentum is, and I don't know if this needs to be done by vote or whatever, but I think that we, at this point, should at least publish a PDF file of the small business guide
With what we have.
with what we have, even though we're missing that information from the, all of the committees that Roland and, Mallory, the
Building.
building, thank you.
Madam Chair, what specifically is the information you're looking
What we had asked for, and I can send you a PDF file of the current small business guide, is we wanted each department to furnish a very kind of either step-by-step or, very kind of condensed, this is what our department does. If you're looking for this business or whatever, here's how we can help you. And just, so it would be like a one-pager is what Ryan called it, a one-pager kind of describing what each department did for an incoming business. And I first started sending out emails to them in November of last year, requesting for this information. I got all the information from the other departments.
Including Board of Health?
Board of Health, no.
No, okay,
That
so
was-
it was Board of Health and Building.
Yeah,
correct?
but
Those
Board
are
of
the
Health,
two
if you do look at the Board of Health website, okay,
Under
it,
the town.
yes, it does give that information. I can copy and paste that information into it. If they have something that they want to add to it, then they can, okay? But I found that what they offered on their website alone was enough information for somebody, to glean from, for, needing,
But what I'm saying is for the whole point of the one pager
yeah,
is to have the PDF available for a new business that may or may not know what they need to do in
Right.
order to open said business. So
Right.
the Board of Health stuff needs to be on that information. So whether you grab it off or the Board of Health gives it to you, what they, their version,
right.
it needs to be the same with the building, because there's certain, people open up businesses all the time and you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you don't
I
know.
know.
You just
So
don't.
why don't we?
I can cut and
just
paste
a little
people.
underground of what we're trying, why don't we say what we're trying to do here, what we're trying to do? What are we trying?
About what?
Small business guy, do you know about the small business guy?
for? This is my first time hearing
Okay,
about it.
so,
Okay, so here comes Todd.
no, well, just,
So the small business guide was created by Todd Miller, who first came to work for the town. There's gonna be a, yep. And actually what he had done, what was it, North Reading? It was North Reading. He had copied and pasted the North Reading small business guide, which is fine. It's a great template. We're gonna be using Rutland and a couple of other
Yeah.
as well. There's nothing wrong with that. But then, he was no longer with us. So there's, no contacting him, I've tried repeatedly to call him, to email him, haven't gotten any return correspondence from him whatsoever. And so we just went about it, what we felt was necessary to, that would give the most concise information for a potential business in town. And we found that there were a couple of departments that were lacking in the information that you could glean off the website and that kind of thing. So I sent out an email asking everybody to please give, either a step-by-step or, one pager of what their department does for a potential new business. And so right now, this has really been over a year, I understand.
Oh, well over a year.
I mean, gosh almighty, COVID.
I wanna say more like 2 years.
More like 2 years,
Yeah.
for sure. We do have an option if rather than printing it right now without the entire information that we need, I can put it in a PDF, which I have, okay? We can put it on the website and people can get the information on the website. And then as the building department or whatever adds more information, that can be updated. And then when we have it all down where everything is just where it's supposed to be, then we can go ahead and print it. But I feel like we shouldn't really have any more time without this, being available to people. I'd like to have it on the website, on the town website, as soon as possible. It's been, like Katie said, almost 2 years.
There was certain things people would walk in and get a business license and
Yeah.
like walk out and like nothing was ever followed up and there was some missing pieces.
Yeah, and so a lot of,
So it was
some
just
people
to help.
would come to get a business license and they'd have to go through hoops. Go talk to this person, go talk to that person, no, you gotta go talk to this person, so they're wasting lots of time. And, we're just trying to make a simple platform, then have a piece of paper, or they gotta go here, 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 and here, and here. And
Right.
end the story, done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Instead of taking weeks on end to get a business permit, or months, or whatever it was for some people.
Well, we had an incident or, whatever with a local business that was, thought that they had all the information that they needed. They actually moved their business, they actually bought a building. Did they not buy that building?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Kind of told you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't buy that, they were
Okay.
renting that.
And then the end result was, when they got into this new building, they thought that they had everything in front of them that they needed to do. And then they ended up finding out that, no, there was so much.
It was actually the person, the realtor renting it to them, told them, point blank, it was on a billboard on the side of that building, I remember seeing it.
That was the previous
Yeah.
building where they are now.
Yeah, no, where they are now is fine.
Yes,
but
where they are now is
the-
fine.
It was on the side of the house, retail,
Yeah, it's
commercial
commercial.
space. I remember driving past it and I'm like, I'm not, maybe it is, what do I know? This was years ago,
Right.
maybe, maybe it is. But yeah, and it was actually, that's the way it was marketed to them. So,
So that's not the town's fault.
yeah, no, that's not the
But
town's
she
fault.
described
No.
it to me that when they got in there was a lot more necessary with the plumbing, with
Yeah,
electric and all of
that's-
that. Well, I'm only going by what, I don't expect people to be dishonest with me when I speak with them. So I'm only going
Yeah.
by what she
No,
told
yeah.
me. And she ended up telling me that they spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that they had no idea. They thought,
It
once
was
that was,
fine.
exactly,
Yes.
they thought once they were in there, it was all good to go.
Yes.
And then everything blew up in their faces, and they felt that they did not have the required information, was not shared with them from the departments about what needed to be done, okay? That's what I want to avoid.
But I've been asked over the years too by numerous businesses, like, well, not even businesses, people that wanted to start, they're like, we can start a business out of our house, right? I'm like, well, yeah, depending, there's certain, roles you have to follow, but yes, there's a lot of cottage, our town is very cottage industry driven right now. And, well, what about this? And like some of the stuff, it's like, ugh, where do you find that answer?
Where do you find that
where
exactly?
do you, so this is just trying to narrow it down to help. It really
Yeah.
is, because Lori gets asked a billion questions, that way she can just hand a pamphlet,
Ease of application. that's all
Yeah.
it is.
We can have them, ready for distribution once they're printed over here in the town offices, over by Lori's office. But in the meanwhile, the best we can do is have it online with what the current information that we have. But I feel, this is just me, okay, and I want to hear from y'all, that, that it's better to have something out there than nothing at all if we're just going to be waiting for
And
one or two
right now, under the
departments.
two that don't have things, you could also say, see, the building department and put Mallory's extension, or,
Correct.
yeah, because both of them.
So at least
Mallory-
they know where to
We
go.
can't even get an answer from Mallory. How the hell is it
I'm
going?
just saying, at least there's an option of, rather than nothing,
Yes,
please look for more details, on,
right.
because.
Yeah.
If you have a question, at least we can point them to the
Absolutely.
person that can get an answer.
Absolutely. And again, as they're willing to give out their information and maybe they're changing some of the things in their departments and what the responsibilities are, PDF file, I can update that any old time. So all you have to do is just either feed me that information as it might change or whatever, and then it'll all be correct. I'll get it up there right away. And, but not before we get these final, answers from them, do I think that we need to spend money on a
Oh, I
printed-
wouldn't print anything
printed
that's
version of it at all.
inaccurate, no, that doesn't have the full, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I
Right.
can certainly ask Mallory about it, I talk to her all the time, obviously, so.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Good luck.
No, please do.
Did you say good luck?
It's, Mallory's done her part. It's just,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and we did try and get some of those questions asked and answered at the Q&A, okay? Which I don't know if you know about that, but we held a Q&A in March, I think it was, or April? March or April, and we invited all of the town, the department heads, and we asked for people to submit their questions, and then I made sure that everybody, all the department heads had about 2 weeks lead time, so they could look, I mean, you can't just ask people live, what's the
No,
answer to this? You
you
needed
gotta
to give them a
them,
little bit of time to do their research and that kind of thing. Everybody had a 2-week, whatever, of getting that information ready for it, to be answered. And I think it was a successful Q&A. But if you remember, so many of the questions directed to that particular department was constantly answered by, you'll have to act, you'll have to, come in or call.
with more specific information,
Yeah.
so that way.
So there was not a lot of information given out from that particular department on that evening as well. So we really need to, get that fulfilled for people, because that's a major big department.
Which particular department is under Mallory you're talking about?
Of
It was building.
the building, yeah.
Yeah, Kathy was there for Board of Health,
Right.
and she answered most of them for the most part, without any, but again, the questions were given to all the department heads 2 weeks in advance.
Yep.
So Alice was there, right? Alice was on it.
Alice was there.
Alice was on it. There was department heads for most of the departments. Lori was there, she monitored it, she read the
She's
questions.
a mediator, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
so.
Because, well, the planning board, I think, struggles with that a lot. Because people come in and they'll be like, well, can we ask your general feeling about this? And the current board says yes. In the past, the old board would be like, you submit a plan, we pull out a plan, that's it.
Right.
But it's still challenging because somebody can come in and be like, well, how do you feel about this? Do we have a chance? We're like, yeah, you have a chance. But then they come in and they're like, oh, yeah, but we left out, we're gonna pump $100,000 of water a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna do something along the lines of this, and then that ends up being a contentious point. It's like, but you told us we had a chance. It's like, well, you did have a chance.
Still do, just gotta tweak that one thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just tweak that.
You just have to fix that within
one
90
small
days.
thing.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the challenge that comes up with it. I did want to come back briefly because there was a comment about the home businesses.
Yeah.
I remember seeing somebody at some point recently was talking about a bylaw to, I think it might have been us on the planning board, to expand home businesses, or rather expand some of the, rather reduce the restrictions
That
that
was
are
this-
currently placed on. Yeah.
Yeah, this
That
one.
looked, and it's tough
We
to tell.
put the, well, we
because-
put the questions on the on that survey.
Survey.
On the
We
town
we
survey.
asked very specific questions and we tweaked them, so that way we could get a feeling for whomever, granted, and you're taking, it was only people that answered that survey.
Mhm.
That, but at least you can get a gauge on how people felt, and one of the questions was, right now it's 20% of your home can be your business. How do you feel about 30 or 40, or you don't care, kind of thing. And then another one was non-related
Staff.
employees.
Staff.
Yeah,
One of you you were able to have, aside from the person who lived there,
yeah,
you were allowed one non-residential employee for your business. and we wanted to increase that
Yeah,
as
to
well.
see if
Or,
that-
well, we put it in as an option.
Yeah, and it wasn't a crazy number.
No.
It wasn't, well,
No.
and we gave them,
To go from 2 to 4 or something.
Yeah.
we
or
gave them,
3.
we gave them 2 choices on it.
Yeah.
We gave them leaving it as it was,
Yeah.
2 to 5, and 5 or more.
There was 4 questions.
Yeah.
And then there was about, an overlay district, but that one was so vague, and I don't think people understood that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About having an overlay, cause they think that, oh, if you put an overlay, that means Dunkin' Donuts is coming. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah,
not. No, it's not. It's,
Yeah.
and that's not what it is. But at least we got it out there, the words, you know, because the words are, if we don't start getting these words and terms out there so people can understand, you know, the cottage industry, oh, well, right now we only have 20%, you know, like in your house, that it could be a very small, you know, like,
5 by 5.
yeah, like, yeah, depending on your house, that's not a lot,
Yeah.
you know, or, you know, it's stuff like whether or not a daycare, like, think about it, if you have a daycare in your house, like, if you have one non-employee, you can only watch so many kids, you know, non-family member employee. But if you could have 2, and you had this huge yard and this huge, you know, garage and everything that was all tweaked out just to be a daycare, you could actually have the children in there, and, you know, it would make sense. But if you can't do that, then now you're limiting these potential, you know, like a lot of daycares, they can only have so many kids. There's only a handful of kids in each one.
Well, I think there's probably a staffing, student ratio. Or
Yeah, there is.
daycare
Yeah,
ratio
yes, there is.
per-
Sure there is.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably.
And
I don't
like
know
the
how
same
many
thing
kids-
with having a doctor's office. Like
Yeah.
I went to a doctor's office all through my childhood, and it was out of the guy's house. And he had a person in the office, and then he had his nurse helper lady, and he had himself. Now, that's 3 people. If you can't, if the nurse helper lady isn't his wife, you know, or the receptionist isn't
Right.
his wife, he's screwed.
Right.
You know, who's gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, have that in a residential setting. Not that necessarily we have doctors knocking down the door to open up a doctor's office, or daycares wanting to, you know, make it bigger or anything, knocking down our door screaming at us, but the whole point is it's limiting. When we don't have a large central, you know, area, we don't have enough business. Well, if we do some minor tweaks to what we have, we could have more business.
I mean, when we came back with the survey, it was 60% wanting more than the 2 people. We got to like 64%.
I think another one was perfect.
I was just
No.
gonna say, parking.
No?
No, but I mean, that could potentially become an issue.
Yes.
You know.
I thought one of the questions was about parking.
I don't
No.
remember, I don't remember.
I'm trying to
I
remember.
know
It's
there
so
was,
long
I
ago,
know
that's
there was,
okay.
you know, what are the hours for a home-based business? Does the home-based business include my yard? Is that 20%?
No, that
included
was,
in my yard?
that was for that's a different, that was the open meeting that we had, the
Q&A?
meet and greet, yeah.
Oh,
The
Q&A.
survey had, I think it was 4 questions from
Yes.
the EDC.
Right. I don't remember anything about
I thought
parking.
the parking was at the Q&A.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't
I
remember,
believe
I don't
so.
remember parking being part of the survey. I don't.
Can I get online here?
Should be able to.
I should
I
be
can
able
look
to
it up.
even do it with my phone.
I can look it up if you want.
I don't even know where that survey is located.
It's
It's on
on-
the town website.
Yeah, it is.
Should be under EDC.
It's on the homepage.
But part of the reason I bring it up
Yep.
is at about the same time, we were, the planning board was also looking at the idea of auxiliary dwelling units and other house apartments, like just try to increase the affordable housing stock in the town, doing a similar thing. And at the time, when we were starting to talk to people about it, people are generally resistant to it, and it was because it seemed like there was misunderstanding or there was a general fear of it being slippery slope. And I
Hey,
think
I'm
that-
sorry, super what?
Slippery slope.
Slippery
Slippery
slope.
slope, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, and I think kind of the similar thing happens with the home businesses. Like, nobody's gonna start running a concrete company out of their house. Well, maybe somebody.
Right.
But that's kind of the fear that everybody gets when they're looking. It's like, oh, but if we allow this, then they're gonna be running a welding shop and doing this and doing that. And going a little bit further to try to educate the public with some of it, I think might be helpful. Also potentially coordinating with what's going on, or it's been tabled by the planning board for now, but I know it is
Okay.
gonna come up again in the future,
Okay.
in the near future about the, auxiliary, housing units.
Yeah, because having the apartments being, so an apartment in Hubbardston, like say you have in-law, you know, like or apartment over your garage or something like that, is totally habitable. Technically, it has to be a family member that lives in it,
Yeah,
which is, no offense, it's like, great if you happen to have a family member, but what happens if you built it
And
for
one
your
that's willing
adult
to pay
child?
rent.
Well, the whole, yeah, but what happens if you built it for your adult child or your elderly mom?
Sure.
Or whatever, and
Sure.
they eventually move
Right,
somewhere,
right,
or, you know, whatever. Now what? You're sitting there with that apartment,
right.
doing nothing other than costing you money and taxes, and you can't, like, why can't you rent that to somebody? That I think, I'm sorry, I'm a landlord, and I think that rule is dumb. Yeah,
or Airbnb
I'm not even gonna
or
lie.
something.
It's like, it's just,
Airbnb is a
Yeah.
very big thing that we've been discussing. I've
Been
had
working on
years
that
of
for 2
experience
years.
with
Yeah.
it. I went to Katie about it, we went to Ryan about it.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we are,
on the list.
it is definitely on the list for sure. Unfortunately, it kind of got dropped, somebody dropped the ball, doesn't matter, whatever, somebody dropped the ball. We got as far as voting on the percentage that we wanted the town to be able to collect, and then passed it on, and it just kind of sat there. But it's something that we do need to look into.
Yeah.
I know that in talking with Dan on on the select board about it one afternoon, when I mentioned to him just what we have right now on Airbnb, which they're not doing it, we'll call it, you know, it's not permitted right now, we haven't approved it. But just on those 3 or 4 that are there right now, within a very short amount of time, it would pay for an entire shift for the police department. That's what Dan told me. So the town is losing a lot of money, you know, by not.
Let alone the amounts, I have numbers of
Well,
houses.
they just kind of multiply what
Yeah.
I've said all along.
Yeah,
You know
and that's what I mean, I've actually done math.
It's a stream of income.
I was
for-
sitting, yeah, I know, I did math.
It's
For
a stream
myself.
of income for our residents, it's a stream of income for the town.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be over, but we're.
I was sitting in David's office and I ran some numbers past him for doing math, and his eyes like got as big as dinner plates. I'm like, that's how much taxes would come in just from that. And he's like, well, why aren't we doing this? I'm like, because we haven't got that far yet.
And yet you fought us the whole time.
I'm still a firm believer that it shouldn't be taxed. But you know what? If we're gonna tax it, I'm gonna roll with it.
Tax them to that oomph.
But
if you
if
can,
we looked
for
at,
sure.
the board agreed on 3% for that kind of thing.
Back then we did.
Yes.
Since it hasn't gone any farther,
It's going
we're
up.
gonna revisit that
Yeah.
percentage. We're gonna revisit that
Yeah.
percentage.
Well, I can certainly ask the chair of the planning board to put that back on the agenda at some point, although it certainly wouldn't be something that would be ready to present anything on for the next meeting, the next town meeting.
You know, it's interesting, I'm just gonna say that when we brought it to Ryan, okay, it wasn't described to us as something that needed to have all of, you know, go through all of these different committees to get
Right.
approval.
Right.
It was,
Yeah.
when we sat in his office, he'd opened the account for Airbnb, that I know, okay? Because all he had to do was put in that percentage rate that we were interested in collecting. We compared it to Westminster and a couple of other towns as well. So we really thought, once we brought that to him, that it was kind of a done deal, and it was just we could start effectively, you know, advertising it or having a seminar about it and that kind of thing. And then, you know, found out subsequently that that wasn't the case. So if you would tell us the channels that we need to go through to get that done, then we'll do that. But we were under the impression that
I'm
it
not
was a
sure
done
if it
deal.
has to be a
Is it-
bylaw or not. I
Yeah,
have
it's not
no
a
idea.
planning board thing, is it?
Well, to the extent that that the housing units are potentially illegal, we could recommend a change to that, to the accessory and to the mother-in-law apartment bylaw, that could certainly help facilitate that. Because to Katie's point, they gotta be related currently.
Yeah.
So Airbnb is not somebody who's related to you, so it wouldn't be a cohesive release. So that would need to change.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, how
I'm
much
just-
do you wanna set us back to Fred Flintstone and Bedrock?
Hey, you know, you should see some of the, yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh my
when you
God.
start, when you
Listen,
start
I lived
looking.
in Aspen for years, okay, and I'm telling you, they were really, really against it until that guy went to the TED Talk thing
Yeah.
and, you know, and talked about, it's just, I just don't even see,
Well, I mean.
I don't even understand.
Yeah, so I got from the assessor's office, how many, the listings of houses and condos and 2 families and 3 families and 4 families that are currently in town. And for houses, we have 1,425, okay? Now, think about this. Say half of those, just let's round down, let's make nice round numbers, because
Okay.
round numbers is so much easier with math. Say half of them, 700, did, like say Airbnb for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, just June through August, just those months, okay? You're talking 13 weekends times 3, that's 39 days,
Yeah,
okay? So 700 at say $50 a night. Say they had a room, whatever, they had an in-law, just round numbers again. 700,
Why don't you make it 100?
no, I got 50.
Okay.
50, okay?
but I'm not even sure, okay, go ahead, but honestly.
That is $35,000. With
I know.
3% for just the summer weekend nights at $50, half the people doing it, okay? That's $1,050 for the town,
Yeah,
for just people renting a room out for just weekends during the summer.
and that, so
And then
what you're doing
Taking
is,
the fact they're buying gas, buying pizza,
Yeah.
going to the breakfast place, going to the
Yeah.
convenience store.
right,
That's what we're after, basically.
Yep.
Is bringing business to town.
Because $1,050 isn't a huge amount, but when they are buying the pizza, and they are getting the
Yeah.
gas, and they are starting at Clean Food, you know, but that's only at $50 for just the summer,
Right.
let alone when you start to have people coming into town
Right.
for ecotourism and agritourism and all the stuff that we're trying
You've
to
got the ski
gear
mountain- You've got the ski mountain over here.
this
in the
for.
winter.
Yeah, but the whole thing is Hubbardston doesn't have industry, so what do we have? We have our cottage industry, that's it. But we have the ecotourism, so let's go with that. So if you have people coming in to take advantage of kayaking and mountain biking and, you know, walking the trails and horseback riding and stuff, you're gonna see people like Billy Goat Boats, the kayak rental place in Athol. You'll see something like that set up shop. That's another business. You'll see the farms starting to do more tours and yogas and things like that on the weekends because people will be coming in specifically for
It's
that.
a very
would-
soft
yeah.
kind of
You
business
would
that
see,
comes
you
to
know,
town.
hiking tours and things like that,
You've
rentals.
got ice
and-
fishing in the winter, you've got the mountain, you've got Mount Wachusett right over here as well. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a reputation as having terrific lodging.
That's what we used to, that's what
That's
Hubbardston used to be. We
great.
were a destination resort for Boston, you know, 200 years ago, 100 years ago. That's what we were.
Exactly.
We were the recreation, we were the summer vacation spot. I have pictures from Gary Kangas that show it with posters and everything else. Why
And
can't we
then-
do
and
that
then-
again?
Well,
As
Ashburn
people-
here too. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people bought summer homes
Yeah.
on the lake.
Yeah,
Why
I've
that
got,
from the
I've got
city?
clients now that specifically ask me to look for houses for them for the express purpose of turning them into Airbnb rentals. They don't want to live in them, they want nothing to do with them. This was Elise Durant when she
Yeah.
introduced me to that person. They don't want to, I said to this client, I said, do you have a place where you'd like to, you know, spend your week? I don't want any, I just want it rented out. I've got Destination Hubbardston website up online, and I have thousands and thousands of people who, and I have all kind of analytics for it. You have no idea how many people call me and say, where can I stay? I want to come visit your town, or I want to be in a surrounding area, whatever. I've got nowhere to put them. I've got nowhere to send them to. Same thing with the weddings and all that. Oh, it's so beautiful. Where can I, you know, whatever. We need to meet that demand because it's there. It really is. And people, you know, I remember, and I said this before, I remember volunteering here for their, you know, yard sale or whatever it was, okay? The day before, or that morning, I was at Cumberland Farms in Westminster. I saw this little petite Japanese woman, and she was looking at the coffee like, what, you know? So I went over and helped her. Later on in the day, I saw her over here at their yard sale. And she came over and she hugged me and I said, well, you know, what are you doing here? How come, you know? She said, we're from San Francisco. We came to Boston for the weekend. She said, one night in the hotel and we said, well, this is just like being home in San Francisco. And so they got online and tried to find, you know, a place that would kind of take them away from that atmosphere and whatever, and they ended up coming over here. We have to be able to provide, you know, places for them to stay, things for them to do, and all of that.
Does Barry allow Airbnb?
I am guessing yes.
Yeah, there is, but well, I shouldn't say that. I can tell you that when you look on the
They have them
Airbnb
online.
website, every town, Sterling, Princeton.
They have
Barry,
inns
Westminster.
and things like that as well.
Yeah,
They
they
do.
have
So
some.
they have bed and breakfast,
But
hotels.
I know for myself, when my daughter was getting married, you know, we moved out to Hubbardston 22, 23 years ago from the South Shore. So our family's all on the South Shore, and when she was looking at venues and looking at, you know, even these farms and whatnot, my first thought was, there's no place for your guests to stay.
Exactly.
They're gonna be all scattered all over the place. You can't get married out this way, you know, at one of those places. Now, my other daughter ended up getting married at Red Apple Farm and had the wedding early
Yeah.
because she knew that,
Yeah,
like,
so they could travel home.
exactly, but there's definitely those venues, but there's people in those positions where if they knew that there were, there's plenty of, you know, Airbnbs and whatnot,
Or
there aren't,
campgrounds
there
or-
aren't.
That's a
around
great little
there.
reputation to have
Yeah.
for, you know, just a, you know, some fine lodging. And, you know, and it's, I mean, we are situated, you know, geographically and, you know, just couldn't be better, okay, with what we have to offer in the surrounding area, our trails and all the outdoor stuff. There should be
Yeah, it's
no,
like going to the mountains
should be
without
no
having to
reason that
travel
we're
the
missing
extra distance.
all of this. And then when you deal with Airbnb, there's also Airbnb experiences, which a lot of our people are missing as well, okay? And that is where, you know, someone will call me up and say, I want to come for the weekend, and I'll bring them to, you know, a couple of farms, do a cooking lesson with them and that kind of thing. There's all kinds of things. So if people are even a little bit worried about someone staying in their home overnight, which for some people might be a little bit scary, okay? I mean, when we did it with our house in Aspen, we gave them the whole house because every time we did it, we went away on vacation somewhere else. But if there's some elderly people who just want to make a little bit additional income and have somebody stay there, you know, it might be a good foray for them to get used to it by doing some of these experiences as well. This is all free advertising, by the way, for everybody, okay? All of these homeowners, all of these experiences, it costs you nothing. I mean, you know, Airbnb certainly takes, you know, some money from the bookings, but we really, I think we really need to, you know, push that effort, that initiative, I think so. You know, to have that done, to, you know, to open it up for that.
Well, first of all, the apartment thing's like
Let's
throw the planning board right under the bus for that one. And then, but yeah, then we just keep hitting on David to see where that stands, what needs to go forward
Yeah.
to make that, like, does it have to have a bylaw on its own, or, yeah, those are my questions, because I have no
It's so
idea.
strange because like I said, you know, it's right in my mind that, you know, that Ryan said he opened the account. He had looked at Westminster right when we were in his office, they were at 7%. Westminster was at 7% is what they were gonna charge. Of course, we also have to deal with, the planning department and Roland saying that, you know, he demanded 10% or it wasn't gonna fly.
Yeah, hotel rates.
Hotel, he
hotel.
wanted the hotel tax, the same tax that was being charged at hotels. He said that he would not approve having Airbnb unless we got a minimum 10% or got the 10%. I wasn't understanding his involvement in it, but that's another story.
I'm not aware of anything in the IMA that would make that his call. I don't know if that's something the select board
As
would
zoning enforcer, no?
Yeah, I don't believe that
Good
would
to
be
know.
his decision.
Good to know.
Because that's the only way I can, as a zoning enforcement officer, would be the way I would think. But I don't know logistically where it falls, cause that's my, you know, does it fall under? Cause there's nothing in, you know, cause again, bylaws are super fun to read, cause, you know, I just love reading bylaws. Makes my day. And the same with the zoning bylaws. There's stuff for campgrounds and there's stuff for motor homes and inns, like what's permitted, what's not permitted.
It's a mess.
But obviously, Airbnb is not on that list, you know, so I don't know where that weirdo, you know, cause it's like,
Well, you have to also realize, Katie, that Airbnb is really kind of a new thing.
that's what I mean.
Okay.
It's new, it's
It
not,
is.
it's not in here because it's,
Exactly.
you know, you
Exactly.
have hotel, motel, inn, and campground listed for, uses permitted by special permit in commercial districts. You know, you have, I highlighted a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, so, but it's not, there is no, it's not a hotel, it's not a motel, it's not an inn, it's not a campground.
It's a short, what it
It
is,
didn't
it falls.
exist when that,
Yeah,
when
exactly.
that, when that law was,
It didn't
Exactly.
exist,
That's
and
why
it
it's on the
falls under
books for
short-term
100
rental
years.
is what it falls under, okay? And right now, you know, we keep bringing up Airbnb because it's the most popular one, but there's VRBO, there's HomeAway that
Yeah,
owns
there's a whole
them.
bunch.
There's a lot of private platforms,
Yep.
private, you know, vacation rental, short-term rental platforms. They're popping up
Yep.
everywhere because people don't want to give so much money
The
over
best one I
Airbnb.
ever went to was to find was I just plugged in, I need a vacation, and comes up, we need a vacation.com. But no, seriously, it was like, you can put pretty much anything in, and it will come up with a website that's close. You know,
Yeah.
there's glamping.com, I've plugged in all kinds of random things
So
just to
there's-
see what it comes
So
up.
there's a lot of platforms that this can, you know, that this can, so it should not really be, you know, let's say labeled as an Airbnb initiative, but rather short-term rental, okay? Because it could be VRBO. The difference between, in case anybody doesn't realize it, VRBO and some of the other ones are specific, you rent your entire home out. Airbnb also includes an apartment, a room in your home, an accessory dwelling, an ADU, and that kind of thing. You don't have to give up your whole home for Airbnb. That's what really differentiates them and puts them at the top of it, because there's so many travelers, they don't want to rent a whole house, they just need a place to stay for a couple of weeks in a room. But I think that when we get to that, and, you know, at large for, you know, whether it needs to be a bylaw or not, we need to make it all inclusive for what we call short-term rentals. And that would be 30 days or less. And we're gonna have to consider that as well, because people being able to work remotely, and the amount of people that potentially are gonna lose their homes or their, you know, their rentals because of the moratorium, you know, not being in place, people will be looking for movement. I mean, if I had to start all over, I wouldn't necessarily say, let me start all over. I might say, well, I've never lived in New Mexico, and I'd love to try that, you know what I mean? And then I would go there so.
Well, the other way you look at it too is the flip side is this could seriously help, especially seniors stay in their homes.
Well, that's what I've said all along.
You know what I mean? To help them get a little bit extra money,
It's a term-
even if they
the
don't.
town keeps raising taxes. There you
It's
go.
not, no, see,
said
no, town is not raising taxes.
I
You
said
know
it.
what's making the taxes go up?
School.
No. Your property taxes are gonna go up because everybody's spending $450,000 to move into this town. All of our property values are going up. The town did not raise property taxes last
Well,
year.
then we're gonna have to get a piece of
No,
palace
it's
and not
They
the
actually
one that
went
they-
down.
They redid the thing.
Yeah.
Mine went up,
Your,
sorry.
it went up, but that's because your evaluation went up. Because everybody's buying houses for $450,000 in Hubbardston, rather than, you know, 190 or 200 like it used to be.
All those days are gone.
Exactly, so your property taxes are gonna go up because your valuation is worth more. So all those senior homes, their taxes are gonna go up just the same as ours are, because our valuations are all going up across the board, because the property values have gone up.
Time to sell.
Well, but some people don't want it to sell.
No,
They
I
wanna live
know
in their
what
house till they, you know, go somewhere else. So the best way to help them is to give them a passive way to get some income.
Accessory use.
There's a huge market for short-term rentals that's
Unbelievable.
not, but I'm not talking about the vacation type. I'm talking about, housing for people that are selling and buying.
Of course.
And it's so ridiculously expensive for the couple places that do it, in the apartment complexes.
Yeah.
It's insane,
Yep.
and people are like, seriously, I'm gonna spend $5,000 to stay somewhere for 60 days, but there's a huge.
First, last, and security.
Huge market for that short term, 30, 60 day
Because there's so
while
much,
someone's
there's so
waiting.
much movement right now.
Yeah.
There's so much movement. I mean, I don't think it's anything that we can, we might be able to do something during the, the winter months, have a seminar for our
But-
residents and kind of
And
introduce
if they
them to it.
don't
and
feel
then-
comfortable with somebody in their house, there might be an option to have like an area, if they have, a separate bedroom with a bathroom, to be able to be a door put in, somewhere so that way they don't have to worry about going to bed at night. Because some people just, and I get it. I don't know about having somebody stranger sleeping in my house,
Well, and
but
I don't know how in depth we can get with
yeah,
them about,
but
about
that's
that.
on them. That could be,
Of
like we bring
Of
up
course.
some of those options if you don't feel comfortable.
I
you
even
can always
thought,
look into something like that.
When I first started talking about this, I thought, how nice it might even be for some of the elderly people. Maybe they'd like to
Yeah.
bring
Have
someone
somebody
around
talk to.
town and play tour for
Very
them.
good.
Yeah.
Or cook them breakfast in the morning and that kind of thing. That
Brain
could be a very
stimulation.
nice
Yeah.
way for a retired couple to spend a couple of weeks out of the
Yeah.
year, meeting new people. There's nothing wrong with that. We can create whatever guidelines. I know I just got a thing from Glenwood Springs, Colorado. They've got all kinds of rules for Airbnb. They even have things like in order to Airbnb your home, you have to have a contract with an emergency service, especially if you're not within the area or in that home. That means if there's any kind of emergency, that person will respond within 30 minutes is what they, sign up with. So we can really create whatever kind of regulations that we want.
Yeah, you can create
that-
any rule you want.
Yeah, that would be helpful to our residents and, and give them, the most opportunity with it and still have it somewhat contained, let's say, okay? So it isn't just, rampant. We could say, we don't want more than, 2 weeks. You can't stay more than 14 days, that type of thing. We can really pattern it to what would work for this town and the residents that might be doing it. So, there's a lot of opportunities.
I think Salem just changed their bylaws so that the Airbnbs could not rent on Halloween night or something like that.
That's because their
because
town goes crazy.
That's the thing.
Absolutely.
That's a whole different
You know.
problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't need an extra million people in town.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean?
renting out a whole
For-
house.
Yeah, so
overnight.
did they change it so they can't rent for that one night
Right,
specifically? In other
right,
words, it has to be,
specifically.
you have to stay the whole week.
Yeah, they can't, yeah.
4-day stay minimum.
So, to Katie's earlier point, that housing affordability is why we're looking into it. Because one of the fine points in this town is that the planning board is also the Affordable Housing Committee. So, with the Affordable Housing Committee hat on as well, how do we find places for seniors to live in? How do we make that easier? And how do we make it easy for them to stay? And the auxiliary housing rule, or the lack of one, was one of the first things that came up. But it kind of got pushed to the back of the queue because of everything that was going on with
Okay.
marijuana facilities.
Okay.
But I'll certainly make sure it pops back on the agenda. And at least from having the units in the house that people are using illegal, that's a good first place to start. I think
Sure.
that's something pretty actionable. So
Sure, right? Yeah.
I'll ask for that to go on the agenda. And
Okay.
it'll probably, the board was generally in favor of it. There was just a bunch of other stuff that hadn't been done before
Okay.
the last town meeting.
Understood.
There's a bunch of stuff that we have to do for this town because
Sure.
there's some pretty big holes in our marijuana bylaws.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty confident it'll end up on the warrant for the following town.
So June, next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry, we got some other ones that we want to go through too.
Yeah, we do.
We
Okay.
gotta tweak.
All right. Good conversation about that. I think everybody has a little bit of a better understanding about what our intention was with it from
Yeah.
the beginning and the benefits of it, okay?
So the follow-up is, are you gonna keep mailing David
Yes.
about that? Okay.
Yeah, I want to see where it was left,
I will ask him too next time I see him.
Okay. And then the last, under old business was feedback, which, from our local businesses, okay? And so during the pandemic, I've kept as regularly as I could. I contacted our businesses, asked them how things were going. Had some pretty good feedback. You know, I wasn't in person visiting them, but everybody, you know, seemed to be doing okay. And then at the town fair, Denise and Peter and I went out. I made some, well, let me preface this also. I found out, unfortunately, that I sent somebody an email and I signed it with my name and then put EDC, and then that person wrote back saying, I didn't know what EDC meant. I didn't even know we had one. So based on that, we decided to go out to the town fair, which was the next event happening right after this occurrence. And we made up some flyers and we went to, gave them out to as many people as possible to kind of let them know who we were and what we were doing. But in the meanwhile, we also talked with all of the vendors that were there from Hubbardston. And I felt like the response was great. I mean, it was, I guess we can say it, it was the Hubbardston Candle Company that actually said that 2020 was the first year that they made a profit. And we have not heard any complaints on that day, nor have I, in my phone calls and keeping in touch with people, heard any complaints about, or the effects, that they felt from COVID, okay, from the pandemic, which I feel is a credit to all of our residents for shopping local and, and continuing to buy, and, whether it's online or whatever, but I thought that that was pretty terrific to, for the majority of our businesses that were present, let's say, okay, and that I've spoken to say, I got no complaints, we really did okay. It was a very unusual, outcome.
And yeah, the same thing's gonna go for field day. I can give you guys a map of my side of the field, to know what's there. I would
Well,
imagine.
I'm a lion, so I'll get the
Yeah,
map
most
for
of,
the other
well,
side.
most of the lion side is usually county
Food and
folks.
all that.
Yeah, it's usually county folks though.
Yeah,
So I will give you a map of my side of where people buy and
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah.
The EDC could always make a vote for the D-dash. There's still time. Just saying.
Yeah, baby.
Advertise. I want to see you sink.
Can we remember we talked about doing like the bags and passing them out at the fair, but I think we thought about it a little bit too late, and it might be the same case now with field day where we might be thinking about it a little too late.
Probably.
But we did think about that because I still think that would be a really
Yeah, you mean
nice
with the
thing to
koozies
do.
in them and stuff?
Anything, like
Pass
just
it out,
something
yeah.
where we can pass something out
Get our
that
name out
says,
there.
Hubbardston Economic Committee and I mean, the EDC.
EDC loves you.
And, yeah, and just like shop local, and just to really, give those bags to the people that are there, that are shopping local, that are supporting local businesses, and just to, I don't know, just
I think we
reiterate
should
the
just order
importance
some
of it.
stuff and have it on hand, and when something comes up, we have
Right,
it
we
available.
have it.
Well, why wouldn't we also, I agree with that, why wouldn't we also maybe furnish some of the businesses with those things?
Right, we could
So
give it
that
to them
people
to give
could
them,
give them out,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Place an order tonight, we got it in 3
You
minutes.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not against that at all. I mean, that's it could be anything from a magnet for a refrigerator to.
Keychain for your car keys, or
Yeah,
something
all of
cheap.
that, all of that.
Pens, remember, we got the pens.
Where the hell is Hubbardston?
I mean, it was
Bumper
really
stickers.
shocking.
I think the shopping
You know, I
bags were
can't
cheap.
stand that. I honestly,
from where?
it makes me want to
Yeah.
just.
No, where the hell is Hubbardston? Hashtag.
It's
damn it.
just such a negative, okay.
What? That's not
It
negative.
is though.
Oh no, it
Where
is
the hell-
not. Oh no, it is not.
Do
It's
you know
never
how many
been
people have
negative.
said to me,
Where, sorry?
they ask
Yes.
where I live and I say Hubbardston and
Yep.
they go, where's Hubbardston?
My
Yeah.
point exactly.
Never heard of it.
My
Exactly.
point exactly.
Then you tell them where
I
it
say,
is.
oh, next to
But where
Gardner.
the
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But where the hell is Hubbardston? Doesn't-
Exactly.
It doesn't answer
We sell
anything.
T-shirts. No, that's what they respond when they say, they ask you where you're from and you say Hubbardston, they say, the first thing they get is where the hell is Hubbardston? That T-shirt has been around since the 80s. My
I've
mother
never seen
made
a
the
person
original one.
wearing it.
And I'm telling you, they still sell them. There's a whole bunch of variations, and depending on, I have like 4 different variations of them. I can't believe I don't have one on now. I
You
should have
should
worn
have
one.
one.
I know. I had a tank top on today. But yeah, That is absolutely not
Okay.
negative
You
at
stick
all.
with it.
I put it on, hashtag it on every single thing I post.
I know you do.
Yep, damn
I
straight.
know
Own
you
it.
do.
I
That a girl.
own that, yes. I
That a
own
girl.
that.
Okay, so anybody else have feedback from any of the businesses? Anybody been speaking to any of the businesses? Hearing any?
I speak to them, but, oh, we have a new soap person,
Okay,
Lovewell Soap,
okay,
in town. They're going to be at Field Day. So that's new.
okay.
I do not believe they have a Facebook page at all, or else I would have shared it. But they're new to town, and as soon as I got Lori's trained, she's got it. As soon as somebody comes in and registers for something like that for a new business, she's like, "Oh, have you signed up for?" And she hands them a field day flyer or something, and
You
she
know-
talked them into signing up for a field day and everything else.
So
So
what a hand in the pamphlet for the EDC.
At the
There
same
you go.
time, sure. That reminds me that we need to get back with Lori. I'm gonna ask her, Lori did send me, and I'm gonna send that to you. Lori did send me a list, an updated list of all the businesses.
with emails.
There are no emails attached. Now, I have,
2 years.
just from 2 years of work, gathered as many email. So what I wanna do is if she can make it interactive where she sends it back to me and I can fill in, I'll just add another column to the right side of it and fill in all the stuff that I have. But we've got to make sure that she's doing that.
Well, it's on there now, so that's half the battle. But you got to keep in mind too that those business licenses are good for 2 years.
Well,
So just
exactly.
because it's done on there, if they haven't had to come refill
That's right.
out the business license.
That's right. But there are none, is
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Well, you can't make them write down an email address,
Yeah, okay.
or like, what do you want?
But I'm
Marigolds?
happy to fill all of the email addresses in that I have
Mhm.
and send it back to her, and then she can resend it with all of that, whatever. But we do need to, whoever talks to her first, just, mention it.
Yeah, she's on vacation.
I
Right?
know
She'll
it.
be back.
Are you collecting that or not? Okay. Okay, anything else under new business? Any input from anybody
That
else?
was old business.
Now, I'm sorry, thank you, that was old business.
We
So
have
now we're
questions.
going on to the crux of our meeting, and that is recommendations to present for the agricultural accessory use bylaw.
So, I like Rutland's very much so. I don't want to create a zoning nightmare on this stuff, so I do believe that a couple things need to be a little bit more answered, or not answered, but kind of spelled out. My question is, what is the difference between a rural bed and breakfast compared to lodging other than rural bed and breakfast? Because one would, under A, allowable accessory uses, if you look at number 19, is rural bed and breakfast. But
Yep.
then when you flip over to the next page, B, allowable accessory uses requiring site plan review, so in other words, they'd have to get a special permit for it through the planning board. There's number 3 is lodging other than rural bed and breakfast. Now, in my mind, when I think of that, I'm thinking like safari tents, yurts, glamping, possible couple spots for RVs, but I don't know if that's what that means.
It doesn't.
Well-
I was thinking of Bates Motel.
It doesn't.
That's
What it-
motel.
Can I get some thought on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, what it means is really,
So,
farm stays.
As
and-
far as I'm concerned, rural bed and breakfast is out of the house.
What does that mean?
Out of
the
a home.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, but
Okay.
it's like just,
And lodging, other than rural bed and breakfast, would be, well, see, here comes Airbnb.
yes, it would, yeah.
So something's gotta be defined, I just thought of it, like, well, other than the bed and breakfast. You have a bed and breakfast where, people can stay, and it's in a house setting, rural,
yeah.
rural.
I don't think
I don't know if
that,
they're talking like hotel, motel, I
they're
think that's
talking
where they
about
have.
farm stays, like you turn a barn into, a two-room apartment.
So you're
and
still
that
kind of
thing.
talking like a glamping, only it'd be a
But we're
structure.
not talking, there's never, in my 27 years of working with farms, there's never been camping
No,
and
glamping is different.
tents and whatever included in those things. And I just know that I'm fairly certain that they're not talking about that. They would have definitely highlighted that if it was such a thing.
Because I think, myself personally, I feel like that should be added as, but it'd have to obviously have the site plan, so it'd have to be under that specific use, because you're gonna have to control noise, you're gonna have to have off-street parking, you're gonna have to have, sanitary, stuff being looked at, and fire protection and lighting and all the stuff that's on there. What the site, what a site plan would go to. But I can't see why, like, there's so many farms, not in Hubbardston, in other places that have like yurts that you can go rent, and it's like a thing. Like you could get those safari tents or a glamping style thing. You stay on the farm, and they have some places, depending on where you go, have like the composting toilet and the sun, the solar shower things, and some are more, they have full on water in the yurt and whatever. But I just feel like I know a few places in town that would love to be able to do something like that, and I think that could be a nice. The whole thing about farming is it's hard enough to be a farm and make money. If we don't give
Understand
people
that, sure.
some opportunities, and that would be a super, in my mind, a passive one, as long as it's not like an RV park for 50, right on the
That's the
road.
thing.
That's what I mean. It would have to have guidelines with it, obviously. You can't just write, oh yeah, you can have that. There would have to be guidelines set. But I feel like that's the only thing this is really missing. It touches on everything else, including not allowing things without, oversight from, the planning board.
Right.
I don't want to create a nightmare for the planning board though, but at the same time,
I just feel that if we were to do something like that, we would have to be really restrictive. I mean, I don't think that I want 5 farms in Hubbardston to each have 50 campsites on their property. That
maybe
just-
we limit it.
Yeah, and I mean, limited.
Or you say
Okay.
per acre. You can only have so many per acre or something. I don't know what the, because what if it's, okay.
Okay.
So that one that's on sale for $2 million, there's what, 300 acres for that?
Yeah.
Think about how many, even if you spread them apart, you could still have 50 campsites on there, and they'd be so far spread apart, you'd never even see them.
Well, where does?
You know what I mean?
Let me ask.
So
let me
I
a-
think if it's a huge site,
Is that off on
Let me
my
ask
part?
Christopher. Christopher,
that's
at
Sue Pumpkins.
what point does something become not an accessory to a farm, but in fact an out-and-out business, okay? Because I just don't see having a farm with 100 campsites on it not being a campground.
Well, that depends upon which bylaw model you go with.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the questions that I have, because, like, when you look at brewery tours and beer tasting,
Yeah,
okay, when it's prepared and grown on site, but all of these uses, they're supposed to be supplemental, they're supposed to be smaller than
Exactly.
farming according to the bylaw. Think about an example where it worked out really well, like Stone Cow. I would be shocked if Stone Cow was making more money on cows than we were on beer right now.
Right.
It's popularity.
right.
So that isn't addressed super well in here, but I don't know that it can be addressed well on what happens when
Well-
that changes. And then
Let me, does he have the Bolton one? Do you have the Bolton?
You have both?
yeah, the Bolton one has.
You look at the Bolton one, you gotta have 20 acres,
Yeah.
okay? And then your money on that accessory use cannot exceed what you're bringing in from the farm.
Yeah, like 1,000.
It's stupid, isn't that?
Yeah,
To me,
and-
that's ridiculous.
And the minimum had to be like $1,000 profit per
That's
acre
right.
or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think any of that makes sense.
This one's going in the shredder.
Yeah. To
I like the bed and breakfast on the Bolton though.
To-
They got some nice stuff.
To Katie's point about the camping though, and sticking that in on B where it is subject to site plan review by the planning board, when stuff goes in front of the planning board, we have an engineer that we work with, and we ask questions about like sanitary facilities,
Uh-huh.
the impact on the community, all of
Yeah.
that stuff's gonna be, and that's also factored in to the enumerated site plan requirements that are in there. And there isn't really anything to add to it, but you can be pretty, well, at least in the current version of the planning board, you can be pretty confident that the planning board's gonna take that pretty seriously and pretty strictly apply the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
requirements under there.
So is that to comfort us in terms that if it went through, it would be, really just, very fine tuned and, and understandable or whatever? Or are you saying that, it's gonna be a tough race to get that, approved?
No, I'm saying that as, it would be a safety check on the kind of the fears that were brought up about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it gonna turn into rather a 1,000-site camp park? Like, no, that's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the
Okay.
facilities and stuff would be ridiculous,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
And the cost for some of
Yeah.
these
That's what I
people
mean.
as well is gonna be really.
So
And
if
the
a farm
ambulance
is-
calls there.
yeah, if the farm is gonna, trying to make extra money and bringing people in for whatever, like say they have a wedding, venue,
Mhm.
or they have, something to go along with their pick your own and they do the yoga and they do the tours and stuff like that, and they had the wedding. Where are these people gonna stay? Oh, well, they can stay at our glamping tree house in the back, or something like that. And I don't think it should be 100, jam them all in stuff.
No, it's gotta go by the size of the farm.
But
I
at
would
the
think it would
same,
like be 4 or 5, period.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect.
but they're gonna have to put the money into actually
Yes, they will.
building these things and following this site plan and doing all that work. That's a lot of money, so
Yep.
I can't see it being something running a farm is expensive enough. You don't have that kind of funds. It's gonna
That's
be, a handful of
Unless they get a
yurts.
grant from the state.
Well,
There's a lot of those out there.
because we're a small town, if the planning board has to have an engineer that reviews what they're submitting, they pay for the engineer.
Yes, I know that.
So-
I've been through that with Roland on another property, absolutely.
So that would be.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it can be.
Yep.
But sometimes that's also a little bit of a safety check itself on getting somebody coming in who's intending to do it the right way.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I looked at it when we talked about it, I thought, the more expensive it, and it's gonna be an expensive undertaking for any farm to, get, compost and all of that stuff in there, which they all are probably gonna be, required to do. So we have to know that anybody who's gonna apply for such a thing is serious about it. It's not like a whim, like,
Yeah,
oh,
like,
yeah, no,
we're gonna allow people
just
to
got a
just
couple
set
of
up
tents
tents and
out
it'll
the
be
back.
great,
But then we also have to consider as well, okay, that Airbnb includes camping. It includes yurts, it includes tree houses, it includes boats. it
Yeah, you can
includes
find anything
all
on that.
kinds of things,
Crazy
okay?
stuff on there.
So where are we going to put this? Where is that going to, is it going to be that the larger campsites would be part of the farms? And that we would allow maybe 2 campsites per home in town or whatever? When I say campsites, a yurt or whatever. I mean, we
Well,
have to
I
think
think,
about-
okay, so you're talking, I think, 2 different things.
Well, we
Because,
all kind of are. I mean,
well, residential is gonna fall under a whole different category than the
Right.
farms.
Right.
This is geared specifically to
Agriculture.
a
Right.
farm.
right.
So if you have a farm, then it would fall under this. Then you'd
Understand.
have a whole separate,
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying
they can
as
still
we're-
put
as
it on
we're-
Airbnb, that
I'm
wouldn't.
just saying that as we're preparing this,
Mhm.
we have to keep in mind and take into consideration if that's something that we also want to be included with our Airbnb. Just like I've said to you before, we have to be very careful that we are keeping streams of income and opportunities for smaller homesteads in this town, okay?
Yeah, I don't think
We
they
have
would,
to do that.
I don't think it would fall, it would be either one or the other, and I think if it was a farm, it would fall
Well, see, this
in
is
the farm,
commercial agricultural
yes.
farm.
Right.
That's what this Rutland one is.
Yes.
So
Right.
that knocks out all your other
Yes, it does,
homes.
yes.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
just
mean,
saying
this
that
would be
as
for
we're
a
putting it on
farm.
our minds to write it up, we need to also think about either, putting a portion of it aside for the
Well, like,
smaller.
let's say somebody's got 10 acres and they wanna have a wedding venue, but they're not a commercial farm.
Right,
then this
We have to-
wouldn't apply.
That would not apply.
And again, we have to consider those homesteads
But can somebody
as
do
well.
that right now?
No,
No,
I asked that
Well-
question.
right. So,
They could, they would just need to get a special permit.
special permit, right. Well, can that be included in a bylaw change?
Not from accessory use. The accessory use is a very specific.
It's a specific commercial agriculture.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's to avoid.
So all your
all
residential
of the-
areas are not included in this bylaw. Yeah.
Well, it's
This is
not by residential area, it's
Well,
about the
how
nature of the usage
businesses,
of the property. Yeah.
right, the business use,
Yeah.
yeah. Commercial use of the property. So, you actually almost got two.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Two
That's,
bylaws.
that's all I'm saying, is that I think what we just have
So
to.
this is one, you know,
Right.
the agricultural accessory use,
Right,
and then, you know, like I said, somebody's got 10 or 20 acres, and, you know, why they're feeling left out, I'm not a commercial business, why can't I have a wedding venue?
Yeah.
So that has to be a different DE permit.
They
It'd be a
can't,
different bylaw.
they just have to run through the
Special
special
permit.
permit process.
Well,
true
the
either.
answer I got for that was that that is not allowable use of land. So you'd have to create a use in all bylaw zone districts to allow either by right or with special permit. That was the answer I was told.
They were in a residential, agricultural, non-commercial zone, then, yeah. They would have to be appropriately zoned for it, in addition to getting a special permit.
And what is,
We have a little tiny.
that's what I mean, for commercial, yeah, there's no, that's not, yeah. So if like, say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a person that everybody knows. Yeah, nobody, yeah, I know, my house, we'll say my house. Everybody knows where I'm at, they've all come see my cows that are all lit up. But yeah, so say I have 10 acres, I'm gonna landscape the yard and we're gonna do weddings. I can't do that because I'm not in a commercial district. So that's the answer I got. And there is no, there's no spot to do it in the commercial district, but the commercial district is like. So it's kind of, the answer, Mallory, we looked through a whole bunch of crap. And to do anything like that was, you'd have to create a use in all bylaw zoning districts to allow it either by right or with a special permit. Because right now, there's like, what, 4 people that could probably do that?
Yeah, it's pretty small.
If that.
There is a recommendation in the upcoming master plan to expand commercial zone.
Yes,
yes.
overlay district.
Yeah. and
Nice.
The EDC should very strongly support that and rally public support for it.
Yeah.
Because I have concerns that it's not going to be really popular.
Yeah,
But
Yes,
it's
indeed,
gonna
you're
be
right.
pretty important to the
Yes,
town.
you're
Well, because people don't understand, it
They don't-
falls back to, they think a Dunkin' Donuts is gonna get thrown on every corner.
Yeah.
In my mind, an overlay district is, you can have businesses in this section with a special permit. So it needs to fit into our characteristic and be approved through
Right.
planning. Am I correct on what you're going with for the planning? Is that the same idea that you're thinking for planning?
Yeah, I believe so.
Kind of, sort
Yeah.
of. Yeah, because in my mind, Route 68 should be an overlay district. Because if you're gonna put a business, like say a chiropractor, right, and you live on Route Road, are you gonna put that in your house? No. Because by the time the people leave your driveway, their back's gonna be all messed up again, you know?
The issue that goes along with it is there's aquifer protection zones that were mapped out.
I'm sorry, say it again, Christopher, what protection zones?
Aquifer
Oh, sure.
protection zones
Yeah,
that
okay.
were mapped out. I can't remember what year it was at this time. But
It's not even late.
it's been a long day for me. But some of those potentially interfere with some of the areas that could potentially be good for that.
Yeah.
And the reason those protection zones exist is actually for potential future development in the town, because they're sites that were identified as places that could possibly support public wells.
Okay.
So that's why they ended up where they were. So I just raised that as a point of something that goes on this. But to be more on topic with this, I love this. There's an awful lot I like about it. I don't think it it necessarily, it's one prong of what we need to do. I think we need to go even further than that. And I don't know if this is something that the committee is aware of. Specifically with breweries, there's been a bunch of central Massachusetts towns that have actually gone out and given away small grants, grants of like $10,000. Marlboro's a good example. Marlboro ran a grant program where they gave away two $10,000 grants for someone who submitted a business plan, or rather two people who submitted business plans for opening up a brewery in the town. And they had a bunch of.
That's a city.
Well, there's.
Marlboro's a city.
Yeah, that's part of it. They also have a community development authority. There are ways to work around some of those things, and there are potentially other ways to find money through grants and such. But perhaps looking for avenues to find some of those grants and do some of those things makes sense, because the reason it matters a lot to breweries or distilleries or anybody running a business like that is because of the way small business association financing works. So they'll loan 90% to the 10% that you put up.
Yeah.
So if somebody gets a grant for $10,000, that's actually buying them $100,000 worth of equipment. So it turns into a really meaningful amount of money for
Oh,
the
yeah.
business. Because grants can count as collateral, whereas a bunch of other sources of income they can get don't count as collateral for collateralizing the loan and
Yeah.
getting that other 90%. So it's potentially a powerful thing for the community to do. It would take some doing to potentially find a grant or avenues for funding it. But I don't know if there's been a discussion that went on ahead of time with anybody who was specifically asking for this because they had a project in mind. But if there isn't somebody who has a project in mind, then that says that we need to do more than just open the door. We need to open the door, turn the light on, and get some cookies baking and see if someone shows up.
For this, I've heard farmers talk about yurts. I've heard farmers talk about doing goat walking tours.
Yep.
I've heard farmers talk about, some of them already do the, like yoga and things like that. But the whole fact is if we can give them some options on paper and maybe, like you said, open some eyes and turn the lights on the potential of helping them stay a farm and be more profitable and give more options to people, I think it definitely, first of all, can't hurt. And second of all, that's one of the biggest things in Hubbardston is we are very rural and people like their farms because the cows don't really make a lot of noise, But at the same time, if you're not making any money, what happens to the farm? It gets sold, and what does it turn into? It gets sold into like 15, 30 houses. It's gone forever, and that's it. You're not
Has
getting
that happened
it
here
back.
in town before?
Well,
Has it happened here in
Scott's
Hubbardston?
apple farm used to be a massive orchard,
Yeah,
and granted, it still is a farm. It's a different type of farm.
right,
It has a lot more houses on it now than it did.
okay,
But again, they're up at the road. They're not.
right.
It's
Like-
happening all over.
Yes,
Holden,
but it
Rutland,
happens-
And, all the builders even know. It's almost like they're
Yeah.
on the list. Lunenburg, same thing.
Blueberry
They're-
farm,
they're
that was
selling up-
all,
Yeah,
like,
that's where
you
I
have-
live, yeah.
yeah, that was all pig farm stretch.
Yeah.
That whole side of the road, both ways, was pig farm stretch.
You
So-
mentioned in the same things happening, that people are buying, up farmland and then building
Yeah.
all around it.
Yep.
Disappearing.
Well, I'm just waiting to see what happens down there on Berkshire Road.
Oh, well, that's not
That's
the
gonna
farm.
make me
But the whole
crazy
thing
not
is
to keep that in.
I've been trying to talk people into do this corn maze, let me tell you. I keep trying.
Okay.
I'm like, I want a
So-
corn maze.
Why don't, can I,
Yes,
why don't
sorry.
we, instead of, local visitors, why don't we, next 3 businesses or 2, why don't we visit Berkshire
Yeah, we can do that.
and try and see, get a feel of it.
Sure.
I
You
can
know,
also look into what the SBA has and the grants,
Okay.
and because that's all stuff I used to do with the credit union in commercial lending, so.
Yeah.
But I know you get through the Farm Bureau, you have grant, always, I know somebody in Templeton, they got over $100,000 just to clear the rocks and crap off this field. And
Yeah, but
what-
that's not for what he was saying very specifically for like breweries and a small business.
Well,
to
no, but
start
still,
out
there's
that way.
grants out there.
Yeah.
for-
Oh, there's
for
grants
everything.
everywhere.
There's a
There's
lot
grants
of
for
money out there,
everything.
you just gotta put a little legwork in.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget also that with this, even for the commercial, town center commercial overlay, with this Delta grant, we're gonna be introduced to some communities that are very similar to ours.
Mhm.
And we have already discussed that we're gonna go out there and visit them. We're gonna go right to the towns and spend an afternoon and see about their walkability and see about their safety and see about what they have to offer for services and all of that. We'll learn a lot from, through that as well. So in other words, they're not gonna give us a list of cities to compare ourselves to. I think it'll be a great invitation for us to really get to see what some of the other communities are doing and how they're, building their
So,
base
yeah,
as
so,
well.
but going back to the farms, I do know one that wants to become a wedding venue.
That's
Um,
good. That's
And I
good.
do know one that, the same one, I'm pretty sure
Well,
wants
we've
to
got
do
one
some
that already
kind
is a
of.
wedding venue, and we are gonna
Well,
have to
that's a
talk
whole,
about that
no, I'm
today.
talking about a whole separate one,
Okay,
besides that.
we are gonna have to talk and discuss that
So-
today, because Christopher posed those questions to me.
Yeah, but
I
the
need
same
to
thing
answer
too
them.
with the tents and the yurts and the camping and stuff like that. They wanna be able to allow lodging on the other side of their facility for when they do have the trail riders or this or that come through or the weddings and whatever. So, and I'm just like, well, actually, it's not allowed, well, see if we can. So I think I'm a firm believer should be a part of it. You're not gonna steer me away from that, I'm gonna
For
voice
what,
my
away
opinion.
from what?
To adding the camping somehow into that with yurts.
Well,
Yurts,
like when you were
tents,
talking about,
glamping,
when you were
kind
talking,
of
I like the
RVs.
tree houses.
Yes, tree houses, whatever.
I think you
It's-
just go 6 camping and be done.
Okay, and just leave it at that.
what
You
do you
don't
mean
have to be
six camping, what
specific.
do you mean?
We just
Just
add,
Add it to the list on the
Number
section
6
where
camping.
they have to get a site plan review.
I wanna put a limitation on the amount of campsites.
It's
I'm
gotta go
I'm not
by,
comfortable
I would
with
think
just
it'd have to
six
go by how
camping,
many
okay?
acres of total property.
When you're talking about your mom's property that you're thinking about turning into camping.
well, that would be something separate, but yeah, I don't know if that would be,
And so-
that would probably fall under a zoning.
Yeah, but but in your mind, when you're thinking about that, how large are you thinking of that, how many acres is that property?
30 plus.
Okay, and so in your vision, let's say, for turning that into a campground.
In my mind, in my ultimate mind, if I were to ever be able to like hit the lotto and just open up a campground, mine would be something very destination-y and would be out in the woods, very
With yurts,
secluded.
Like yours.
Yeah, or a tree house.
So not 100% camping, but tree
No,
houses.
it'd be more of a glamping
So
experience because I
earthy-
don't do camping. I
Earthy,
hate camping. I'm
crunchy
not gonna
type
lie.
camping.
Yes, I hate camping. It would be more of a, in my mind, when
A destination.
yes, it'd be a destination. You would specifically go there for a rural excursion that would be out in the woods. You wouldn't be,
Place to go.
you
clear
wouldn't
your
even
mind.
see any of the other,
Yeah.
establishments. It would be like your private little,
See, I'd be all right with something
secluded-
like that. No, you don't
that's
Unfortunately,
in
but
my
and
mind,
it
but
is
that's
a
not
great
what
idea.
everybody
But
thinks.
unfortunately, my experience in my business is that people, when they are doing that,
Take
they
advantage.
want all of the services as well. They might want to have a glamping tent, okay?
Yeah.
But they want internet, they want telephone,
Yeah.
they want a kitchen inside, they want a bathroom inside. There are
You'd be
very
surprised
few-
how many
There
are
are
on
very
there.
few women, Katie, and I'm telling you, I'm from New York City. I've got people come, okay? Nobody wants to come out rural and pack a bag and hike through the woods to go and
See,
you know.
I think,
That's just not gonna
I
happen.
think it's
You'd be
getting.
surprised how many there are
They don't.
across the country
There's-
They don't.
I
that are
27
booked.
years. They
I'm
don't.
just telling you, then go find the ones that are on the internet and you try to book them. Go ahead, you can't for 2 years.
I think there's more
The
people
ones that
trying to get
are
away from
rural,
it.
just the same as the
Yeah.
ones that have the water.
You just shut the cell phone off, no
You would-
internet.
Yeah.
But I think with the advent of what's happened with COVID and all of that, you've got so much movement, okay? And people are now working remotely,
Right.
okay?
So somebody that-
They need all of them.
I'm
They
just
need
telling you,
all
the
of
ones
them.
without the internet or without the water, they have like the
Well, tell me what sites you've been looking
Go
on.
to
'cause I'm prepared
glamping.com,
tonight.
have at it.
What's that?
Glamping.com. They have it all across the country.
Oh,
Hell,
gosh,
you
I
have them
know
all
that.
across the world.
Okay, I know them. That's
Yeah,
just,
and it's, you can find them anywhere. Some of them have water in there,
Uh-huh.
you know, it's more posh. And some of them are super rural and they're composting.
So-
I'm not a
so
fan of
it's-
that. And then some of them have a, you know, united, you know, like you go to the bathroom facilities like you would a normal campground. You know, stuff like that.
Glamping.com,
Yeah.
sure.
So there's, depending on where you wanna go and what you want for amenities, you can find safari tents on there, yurts, tree
Yeah.
houses, teepees. Teepees are fun, those look kinda neat.
Yeah.
I was like, that's
We could do
interesting.
igloos in
These
the
are all
winter.
Yeah.
these are all very
You can
popular.
rent a cave. I was like, a cave? Who the hell would wanna sleep in a cave?
Uh-huh.
But you can, yeah, you
I
can-
would.
when in doubt, you can find anything to rent on the internet.
We have
And a lot of
caves.
them are booked for like 2+ years. There's
Yeah.
nothing available.
Crazy,
It's crazy. They're booked out. They're, you know, I've tried to narrow it down just to New England. Like, what's available in New England? It's hard to find anything. They're all booked out, whether they have the amenities or not. You know, so it's, because there's always something for everybody. And with internet, as long as you got a cell signal,
Which is tough to come by.
well, they're putting up a tower. But again, depending on where you are in town, there's you know, you.
Yeah,
So
but isn't that
that's,
tower not for, I mean, there'll be a tower, but it's not for certain providers.
well, it'll be one provider, but they all
Which one?
use each other.
The one in town,
The tower that's going up,
The
it's
one
not
that-
there yet,
we voted on it,
yes.
oh, they are gonna put a cell thing on?
Yes. It was granted in to make it tall enough to put a cell
So
on.
that's how they're paying for it, they give you money.
Yeah.
I brought that
well,
up at the town meetings,
the money will go into the regional dispatch.
and they didn't even wanna talk about
So
it.
it's,
Maybe because it was in the works.
Maybe, sure.
Cell towers are also not politically popular in town.
Yeah, no, I don't like the idea of a cell tower.
How did you know that?
but it's one, so the one that's
But
going.
there's one going up for Rutland Communication, right?
Yes,
And
and
then,
it's-
so they just
That's-
attach an antenna
that's
to it.
Well, yeah,
She's talking
it's
about-
Making it
taller,
available for lease.
What's that?
The spot is gonna be made available for lease.
yes,
So,
For,
no idea.
for
who's gonna
lease,
do-
did you say?
yeah.
Yeah,
For lease,
so,
Okay.
Goes to the highest bidder,
yeah,
so it could be
Yeah.
AT&T, Verizon.
Yeah, but they all use
But
each
you know
other
what, they get
anyway.
huge, I mean, they get big money for that, well, I'm talking 5, 8
And
grand
it's
a
not gonna
month.
solve all the problems for cell in town, but it's
So
going
where's
to
that money go,
solve.
to the town?
It goes to Rutland Dispatch to take down the monies for what we have to pay in. Not us specifically, for the whole region. It does not come back to us.
How many
because
regions are on this dispatch?
There's 5 towns in our region.
There's 5, yep.
Yeah, for, not the school district, the
So this
dispatch.
pays down 5 towns cost?
It takes some money off,
It's
yeah.
8,000,
Off the
it
top.
could be as much as 10,000 a month right now for one of those cell.
I have no idea.
No, I'm serious,
Not
'cause it
even
used to,
lying. No
12
clue
years
how
ago, it
much.
was 5 grand a month.
Yeah. So it'll take down, you know,
That's
the,
why all these people are putting solar fields on these old farms,
Yeah.
because you don't give them a 99-year lease and they get 15,000 a month or whatever.
But doesn't it cost us a lot of money when the lease is up also? Isn't there great expense?
well,
I don't know, I think I just remembered somebody saying that at one point.
One more.
That
Why?
when the lease is up and they're maybe, I don't know, maybe, what?
No, I was
Are you
thinking
talking about solar farms or
solar-
Yes,
cell?
no, solar.
oh, no, solar farms, yeah, that's on the owner and there's monies put away for that to be dismantled.
Okay, yeah, yes, okay.
Decommissioned.
Very
Yeah,
good, thank you.
decommissioned, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
But it doesn't bring any money into the town,
Now,
What?
the solar farms, really, right?
Yeah, they do.
Does bring in some.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to, do a host
Taxes.
community
I'm sure taxes on it.
agreement, yeah,
Because
there's
now
money
it's no
that comes
longer
in. It
farmland.
goes on a sliding scale though, so as the solar progresses, the money falls off
Yeah.
because the solar isn't
It's
as,
diminished,
yes,
yeah. Losing
Okay.
its efficiency.
yeah, and there's what, 5, 6 solar fields in town? I wanna say, there's either 5 or 6.
There is, no, there's one right up on 60.
There's 2, 160.
There is?
Yeah, they're right behind each other.
Oh, over there.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's a bunch on Williamsville.
Well,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna, kind of get us
Sorry.
moving along? No,
Yes.
no, that's fine.
Sorry.
We're scrolling all
It's
over the
okay,
place.
Well, we
it's-
haven't met in
it's-
person in how long?
No, but it is, you know, it is getting late and, you know,
It's past Chris's
this,
bedtime.
this bylaw is meant, you know, was,
Yep.
the crux of it, let's say,
We
is
got off
for
track.
events, okay?
Okay.
Weddings and events. We've kind of gone out to camping and all that, which is a
Yes.
little bit off the, you know, beaten path of what I think our direction is right now. This could be built on, this could be, you know, added
Yes,
to or whatever.
concerts, it's festivals, special events,
Yeah.
art
Right.
galleries.
But if you're gonna do it, you might as well spend the time and get it right the first time.
I understand that, but I don't want to, at 8:20, you know, I
Oh,
don't,
yeah, roger
I
that.
want to get to really what, you know, what we've all been looking at in terms of weddings and events being held at farms. Okay, so I'd like to,
Commercial agriculture.
what's that?
I'm just babbling to myself.
If I could add one last comment to it.
Yes, of course.
The permit procedures, I don't know how well that's gonna work with our current IMA with Gardner. And I know that, I believe that's an issue that the select board is gonna be talking about on the 30th. So, perhaps bringing up how this could possibly work with the IMA, or how the IMA had been changed, or if we had to go in, say, a different direction as a town. I think that would be pretty important to actually make this work as a bylaw.
And it's the,
Intermunicipal agreement.
yeah,
It's the
That's
contract
the
between Hubbardston and Gardner for them to provide services to us. There's some issues with the contract, at least
Are
from
you,
the planning board
when you say
perspective.
service, I don't want to put, you know, I don't
Building
want to, whatever.
inspector,
Are you,
electrical
is that what
inspector.
you're talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
I see,
Yeah.
okay.
The CEO commissioner. yeah.
Okay, okay.
so I did email Roland a few very specific questions, so that way, because again, I didn't want to create some kind of zoning enforcement nightmare with this. So I did ask him some very specific questions via email, and I did not, at this point, get a response. I did put in there that we were having our meeting tonight, and I was hoping to get a response before our meeting, and I have not received a response back on my questions.
You'll
I
get it
did
in
touch
time for
base with
next
Mallory,
April's.
and Mallory did give me some general answers. The third question she couldn't answer because that would have to be answered by Roland, so, where he's the interpreter of the bylaws, so he would have to have answered that one. But the first two I did get at least some basic answers, so that way, if we're creating this for the farms, where does that leave somebody with like the 10 acres that just wants to do you know, they don't have the farm, but they want to do the wedding because they have the beautiful pond and they just want to have one, you
Look,
know?
okay, hold
So,
on. I think that
yes.
it should be mentioned, okay, that we found out, or I found out just today, okay, that when Kathy Hansgate had been at the Q&A, she had referenced that it was 5 acres makes a farm in Hubbardston, okay? That's what you have to have, a 5 acre, in order to be a farm. You told me just today
That's,
that Mallory said that
there,
is
well, she
not
said
the
that
case.
Roland had to answer that because there's well, between the difference between the commercial and if there was a difference between a smaller farm. Because I pulled up the commercial, well, the farming in general, the state guidelines. And then I've read through
Yeah, get out of
everything.
here.
And it doesn't specifically say anywhere in any of ours that it's
What's,
5 acres.
Right.
Doesn't say
Now,
anywhere.
the state one says 5 acre, and unless you have two parcels, and then this one can be 2 acres and this one can be 2 acres, and that would be minimums. But if it's a 1 acre lot, it has to be 5, and you have to have so much sales and blah, blah, blah.
Same thing that you were talking about, Peter, earlier.
Yeah, the sales.
That's on the
That's,
state.
that's the commercial,
The
yes,
state
the state one.
Yeah.
Correct.
But
I have it
ours,
right here.
it doesn't say anything, so,
Very
yeah,
good.
so what makes,
That's general law 48.
yeah,
Now,
yes.
the reason that I bring this up
Yes,
because,
yeah.
is because you can understand that if we've been thinking since whenever the Q&A was, in March or April, okay,
Yeah.
that our minimum for farm is 5 acres, and we find out that it's 2, or that we can put in, or make a suggestion of what it should be, really changes the entire landscape of what we're doing, okay? It would open it up to many, many more people in order to be, you know, to be able to declare their homestead as farm or agricultural, okay? And it really does,
Yeah,
Just
because
kind
like if you could put into the zoning bylaws, say, 3 acres,
right.
that would be a huge difference.
It would
For
give so
especially
many
some of
more
these people that
so many
sell
more
stuff at the end of
opportunities.
That's where I'm
driveways.
talking, we might have to do two, one for, you can have a residential farm with 3 acres, why can't you call that a farm?
Well, that's what I mean, and
You know
then,
what I mean?
but with this,
This is
but
commercial,
with this agricultural zoning bylaw,
agricultural accessory.
accessory.
yes, the
Accessory.
accessory use.
Right, it's commercial.
How, okay, but that's what I'm saying, would we keep it only commercial, or would we allow it to
You'd
raw?
have to either add some verbiage, or do a separate bylaw for.
We never, I didn't think we were going into this as a zoning bylaw.
I have no idea what we're doing.
I didn't think
We're
that
making
going
it up
into
as we go.
That's true.
That's
That
what
is
this
true.
is,
That is
debate
Well,
on which way is it
But I
going.
didn't
Well,
think
this
that
is
it
a
was.
proposed zoning bylaw change, and that's how it's listed,
Right.
Yes.
as
for
an
Rutland.
agricultural accessory use.
Right,
Yes.
So
That's the
Okay.
way Rutland did it, yes,
Yes.
very correct.
right.
And I'm not arguing that point. I think it's pretty decent. Has anyone, how long has this been on the books? Since July 2020, excuse me, June 2020?
It's not that old.
Has anyone reached out to Rutland to see if they've had any pushback, any problems, any?
No, I've spoken to them. I've spoken to, Anita. No, no.
They've had no problems with this?
None at
Have
all.
people been using it?
What
Has
about-
any special permits gone in?
They have. I could get, I'll bet, and I'll bet the fellow who wrote it, who she also put me in touch with, I bet that he would give me all of that, and he'd probably email me all of that information if I asked him.
Yeah, because that would be helpful, like, cause if it's working for them and they're not getting, you know, like all this weird pushback or people trying to do bizarro things with
Right.
special permit, you know what I mean, and bogging down the whole planning board in that town with crazy stuff.
But theirs is
You know
pretty
what I mean?
concise. I mean, I thought it was pretty concise. I mean, I didn't really
Yeah.
leave,
So
much-
commercial is this, and so if you have residential with 20 acres and want to do a wedding venue, they're gonna do a special permit from planning board.
If you're in the
So-
district, no, you have to be in the.
So-
Yeah, you would have to be in commercial.
Right, because these commercial ones would have a business license already, correct?
But here's the, okay, ready? You know the size of the commercial
So then a
district?
house, say I had 20 acres,
See this little dot right here?
yeah,
That's our commercial district,
yeah.
in
that-
all the covers,
That's
just
the
that.
problem.
Yeah,
I'm in it.
I'm talking,
Yeah,
this
you're
is,
in it.
this
I'm
is
in
for
it.
farms, this is
Yes.
agricultural
Yeah.
farms,
Yes.
commercial farm,
Yes,
so they're selling to the public, something.
yes.
So, but if I had 20 acres as and I'm not a commercial farm, and I have 20 acres, I wanna do a wedding venue, I have to go for a special permit.
No,
you can't do
you
it
can't
at all.
unless you're in that
If
little
But you're
blob
not-
in the
You're
middle.
not in a commercial in a commercial
Really?
zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I read, so,
Okay.
that was
I'm
one of my
sorry.
questions, no, that's okay. So the answer to that, you have your 20 acres on the Hubbard, you know,
Yeah.
down on Ragged Hill,
You're not
whatever.
doing anything with it.
Nope, you're not
Right.
allowed, use of the land that way.
Which- what are
So
you
you
reading
would
off
have to create either a use in all bylaw zoning districts to allow it, or by right, with allowed either by right or a special permit. But you'd have to change it to all zoning districts, not just the commercial like it is now.
Okay.
So
And I
I
thought-
would,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would recommend keeping this limited to how it is now, because this nice, narrow accessory use for farms,
There's
this
only-
passes reasonably easy.
There's only 4 farms in town, right? Is that
No,
what
there's
it is?
more than.
No, I've got 2
Commercial?
on my street.
Okay, commercial?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
But my point is, this passes reasonably easily
Right.
at town meeting.
yeah, residential.
What does?
Whereas doing something that's a little more expansive, like you're talking about, is going to turn into something that will use a lot of our resources as
Yeah.
a committee.
No, I understand. Yeah, no, we're just,
I
I'm
still
just
think-
trying, I'm trying to
Yeah.
get a grasp of everything
Yeah.
here, you know what I mean?
I still
So
think
I'm
that number 6 though, camping, telling ya,
I'm just throwing stuff out because
'Cause I know a
I'm
few
looking
of
for
them that wanna
information
do it.
for myself, so I know where I'm at.
The 5 acres that are in here, though, that's a reasonable amount of protection. And this is actually something that the planning board recently looked at,
Yeah.
because one of the holes we have in our marijuana bylaw is you can do that in a residential area. up to
Excellent.
20,000 square feet. But then when you look at, okay, well, a 2-acre lot, and by law, you have to have a 10-foot fence with barbed wire on the top of it,
Yeah,
and there's no setback requirements, you could technically have to put that on your neighbor's property, or rather, on the property
Yeah,
line,
like
on
the
the
line.
street. And it would be a permissible use the way that is currently written now. So we're actually,
I thought you had to allow for 2 feet on the opposite side for maintenance of the fence.
well, 2 feet is not many feet when
2
you're
feet.
talking about a 10-foot fence covered with barbed wire.
Yeah,
And
if I-
I
if my
don't,
neighbor-
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah,
believe
my
we
friend
actually
will
have a
be
fencing
happy.
setback
okay.
in our rules.
No,
But-
why is that?
But we spent some time looking at it in terms
Yeah.
of, well, how much
Yeah.
space would you actually need to not have this be on your neighbor's lap? And it is about 5 acres, so we're actually gonna be proposing at the next town meeting that we amend that.
Yeah.
So that we're not, the voters wanted the outdoor grow. It would be a lot of a fight to change that, but I think we can all get on board saying, yeah, you should probably have a minimum lot size of 5 acres in order to grow 20,000 square feet of marijuana, which is a lot of plants. So the same kind of thing applies here. If it's 5 acres and somebody's doing, say, some of the agricultural museums and stuff like that, if you're running an agricultural museum, you're probably gonna run a pretty awesome collection of tractors, and that would be great to not have on the property line. So the 5 acres kind of spreads that out a little bit. So I think that's a pretty good protection.
Yeah. All right.
What did I miss? Sorry, so sorry.
No, I was just talking, Chris was going over about setbacks and how 5 acres is pretty decent amount of protection for minimums.
So we gotta look at,
For
so
minimum
we're
size.
dealing with
Okay,
commercial
okay.
farms, and then what about the guy that's not a commercial farm, but he has a farm, that wants to do something?
Well,
He can't, right, is that
He-
residential,
no,
he's zoned in
he-
residential?
Well, it would be the difference in acreage size and how much is he producing.
so wouldn't that, so then wouldn't that just fall under, okay, wouldn't that just fall
That
under?
falls under 48.
Wouldn't that fall
Yeah.
under just a home business, okay?
It's,
I mean, if, it would have to kind of
see, that's, everything gets confusing.
go back
Like, what do
to,
you mean?
well, if they're not in a commercial area, I mean, our home
Yeah.
businesses aren't all in commercial areas, okay?
No.
So if somebody has 10 acres on your street, that's not commercial, right?
Yeah.
They can use that, wouldn't necessarily where they would fall under agricultural or farm or whatever, but they certainly could use their property for a home business.
Home business,
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
depending on the home business, most of them, yeah.
honeybees, 10 acres.
What's that?
So let's say you have honeybees, and you,
Honeybees?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, okay, yeah. And so that would be under, what, special, that would just be under business license, am I
I
correct?
think that would be under farming. It's right to farm. A farm is different. Bees would be a farm.
yep.
You're talking about something different, so I don't know
Well, I'll
what kind
say,
of business.
but
you would-
it's a farm, but it's not a commercial farm.
Any business.
No, but it's right to farm. Right to farm, okay, so there's a whole,
Hold on a
page
second.
66 on
I'm
our.
trying to answer his question about a 10 acres
Yep,
that's not in a commercial district, therefore cannot be utilized for these other things, okay? But those 10 acres can certainly be utilized for something else. That person, that homeowner could have a home business out of that. I asked, or one of the questions at the Q&A was how much of the 20% of your home, does it include your land, your property? And the answer was no. 20% of the
Was
dwelling
what?
itself,
So you can't have a home business.
yes,
you
absolutely.
can have a home business.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it can't be honeybees out on your 10 acres.
It can.
Well, it
You can
could,
do
but they're
that.
not gonna fall under agricultural, is the thing.
No, right.
Yeah, you could.
But what I'm saying, they can't do anything without a special permit.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That-
Well, not necessarily
No, I
special
don't,
permit,
That's
doesn't-
not-
this is, no, this
No?
is
You-
not,
you could-
you guys are talking in
Yeah.
circles.
Katie, that's okay, let us,
I'm
that's fine.
confused.
Yeah, I know.
You threw in a bunch of stuff about camping.
No,
That
that's,
was not
well,
on
that's
anyone's
because,
That-
radar, so let him get his question
Okay.
answered because it's
well,
important.
That
honeybees
farming
would,
would be perfectly permissible without a special permit.
So,
That's why.
how about if he wants to hold a wedding?
no,
But
Why?
why is he
Well-
getting penalized when this
Why?
farmer's
Well-
commercial with 10 acres, okay, and then this farmer,
Because that would be a venue.
It depends upon
what if he throws up a tent?
It's a venue.
whether or not he's doing it professionally is the
Yeah.
first thing. Whether or not the beekeeping is professionally.
Yeah.
And if he's keeping bees professionally, there probably is a good chance he's gonna end up qualifying as a farmer for
Yeah.
accessory use.
Well, if he's selling the bees, it's
Yeah.
obviously commercial.
And if he's.
Well, not commercial, it
But there's a
doesn't,
right to farm, you can have a bee anywhere because it's farming.
and it doesn't have to be a commercial business.
No,
And he can sell his bees, it's still not be commercial.
yes, right to
Yeah.
farm is anywhere. You can,
Okay,
there
and
is
so if
no-
somebody
So I
has
have a
10
question.
acres
I'm doing all
on,
this,
if
so
somebody
this-
has 10 acres on Kate, that's the only road, you know, that
Yeah.
I know the
There you
name of
go, we'll just keep
offhand,
using
okay.
Ragged Hill.
Whatever.
This is all the stuff
And
we're
they've
gonna
got 10
hash this
acres
out.
there, can they turn their property into a wedding venue?
No,
Why?
because it has to, the only place you can do that is by special permit in the commercial district.
See, I don't think that's fair.
It doesn't matter whether it's fair or not, that was the very specific, that first question that I asked. If someone could use their private property for profit, I mean, you can have a wedding on your private property for yourself or
Family,
your, yes.
family, yeah.
And you're not charging anything, that's different. But if
Right.
you're charging and you're doing it as a business, you cannot do it, because it can only be in the commercial district, that very center of town.
Why? I mean,
Because that's
because if
that's one
somebody,
of the zoning bylaws.
but if somebody can have a business at their home and it's not in the commercial district, why does it matter what the size of the house is and what the business is, so long as it's a legal business?
I think it would come down to neighbor complaints and parking.
Well,
You
sure it
know,
would.
Yeah.
Where,
Of course
where
it
if
would.
beekeeping is, what's it gonna be, 1 or 2 cars, a few times a week, come to get some honey, you know, but a wedding every weekend would be totally different, you know, where you'd have a lot of traffic coming in, going out late, you know, so. And I say, sure, do it with a special permit, but that's.
You have to change the
You'd
bylaw.
have to give
Christopher,
the
what is-
neighbors an opportunity to,
To hear it, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, with
Well, of
any
course.
special permit, you have a right to say, hey, I'm gonna butter, and no.
Yeah.
So we'd have
And
to,
yet, show
That
that there's a
happened-
plan for
just happened
sanitation
down-
and parking and traffic.
In Holden, which I
Holden
sent out,
just
yeah.
happened, yeah.
Christopher, say that again, that answer to what Denise said, please.
But so the point, the reason you go through that process is because you have to show that you have a sanitation plan, that you're not gonna disrupt your neighbors, that you're gonna be dealing with the traffic appropriately, and that the site's just generally gonna be safe for people.
And so.
so you have to change the zoning bylaw.
But wouldn't that be necessary for a farm as well? Wouldn't they have to have all of that as well?
It is, if we pass
Well,
this,
Yes, so for a farm under this, they have to present a site plan.
Right,
But the site plan is different from a special permit.
yes, okay,
But the site plan would be the traditional kind of Tyvek printed out, here's where everything is, here's what we're gonna do, here's where the bathrooms are, here's the notes on the traffic flow and
Right.
all of that stuff.
right.
And it would be looked at specifically using the questions that are listed in here.
Right,
Um, So, yeah, they would have to do the same thing. They would have to go through those steps, and a neighbor could still object and cause a whole bunch of problems there. And it wouldn't just be the neighbor's opinion, so where the neighbor could object and cause the problems is by coming in and voicing good arguments.
Right.
And saying like, this street won't support the traffic, or
correct.
this is right next to my fainting goat farm. Like, you're never gonna be
Awesome.
able,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So stuff like that. There's still a process they would have to go through to do it.
Right, but they are not out of the, it's not indefinite where they could not do such a thing.
It's an easier process, and this is also intended to be, not that like special permit process is intended to be collaborative. Although in many towns and in previous iterations of the board, it wasn't. It was, you put something in front of us and we're gonna approve it or not approve it.
Right,
Whereas this, when you look at the language that's used in here about, where is it? It uses words like consultation with, advice from the building commissioner, and stuff like that in terms of framing how the parties are gonna be interacting. So it's a different pathway.
So in other words, it's gonna be easier for the farms to establish these kind of, these spaces for events than
Well-
it would be for just a non-farmer, but that has 10 acres or whatever.
Well, really, the thing that's gonna be the biggest issue for anybody is sanitary facilities.
Yes.
Because that's something that's particularly challenging in our town.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
like, when
Yeah.
you run down the list, if I was to be looking at this actually in the planning board, noise control is usually not that big of an issue, although it can be.
Yeah.
Off-street parking, that very much can be an issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're having a wedding or an event, like a concert
Especially over
or
here on
something.
68.
Yeah,
Big, very big deal.
We also
Jeez Louise.
have,
200 people
we have all kinds of bylaws on parking in this town.
Uh-huh.
It actually, it almost, both of them cannabis projects. The loading areas, that's not gonna be, traffic control could be a thing for venues. Sanitation, that's gonna be the big one. Fire protection if they're outside, that's not gonna happen. And lighting and screening from neighbors. But
Yeah.
when you go down that list, it's like, okay, well, what's gonna cost some serious money and take some serious time?
Be the toilets.
Sanitation.
It'll
Yeah.
be the toilets, every time without fail.
Porta potties.
Well, okay, if you're having a wedding, think of this. If you're having a wedding,
Yeah.
grandma,
Shorts and-
grandma is coming, who is 88, great grandma is coming, who is 88 years old.
They have handicap ones.
It doesn't matter, and she has her nice dress on and girdle and all kinds of stuff. I'm
Drop your
telling you
girdle,
right now,
drop
I
your
had an
skirt,
outdoor
drop-
wedding, and I will tell you right now, I did not have a porta potty. I had one of those fancy toilets that came in on the trailer that had,
Oh.
you hitched up the hoses and all kinds of stuff, and it was a full bathroom. So,
Really?
yes,
Really?
yes,
Porta
I did.
That's
Yes, I
cool.
did, because there was not,
You
my
can
grandparents
dress
were
them
there,
up.
I was not happening.
I
The only
did-
problem
I
with
would-
those is there's stairs.
I
That's the
planned
only
I did
downfall.
a wedding event for somebody at that porta potty, and the walkway, the 10-foot walkway into it had couches and mirrors and perfumes and all kinds. You could dress that up like nobody's business.
My,
It shouldn't be
Yeah.
a whatever for everybody.
I went to a wedding
They could
last
be very nice.
fall.
Yeah.
It was my husband's cousin, and they had it at a brewery in, I think, New Hampshire. And it was one of those trailer porta potties
Yeah.
that you walked up it and you opened it up and it was the full-on bathroom, but it was stayed there at the brewery.
Sure.
That's what they had
We
for
did that as well, yeah.
facilities, and the company, whoever owns it, comes and deals with it and cleans it out and whatever, so you don't have to worry about the septic and all that stuff. It's kind of for the money, a no-brainer if you can do it, as long as it would pass,
So-
through a special permit or.
And
excuse me,
Christopher,
a
what
site
are
plan.
we looking for answers about sanitation? What are we looking for from the Board of Health? What questions are we asking them?
It would be good to find out what their thoughts are on what would be acceptable arrangements.
Let's say, I'm sorry.
What would be acceptable arrangements
Okay.
for some of these uses? And I don't know that it's something that we necessarily need for language in this, but it's something that we need to know and understand for this to be successful.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was going to be reasonable for people to comply with it.
Yeah, because the plan, you need a guideline to know whether, like, a wedding for X amount of people, is this gonna be the right amount of bathrooms, and the Board of Health is fine with it, and it's gonna be sanitary. It's nice to know, you guys have a general idea of what should be approved and what shouldn't be approved. We don't wanna start saying, oh yeah, 50 porta potties is great, sign them all up, a wedding for 3,000, sure, Or, my husband's been to concerts and all kinds of stuff, and the porta potties are overflowing, and it's just gross, and it's like, that's not what we want.
Try to go to the New Orleans Jazz Fest.
Gross. No, that's just gross.
I need to go to the bathroom, and your
Nope.
hotel is like 19 blocks away.
No, I'll hold it, I'm fine.
Um,
All
okay.
right, sorry.
No. All right, that's a good start for information that we still need to research, get from, you're talking to Alan often.
Yes.
You know,
I'm in the offices every 2 days, so I
Yeah.
check my mail.
yeah, if you could, you know, find out, what their requirements are.
For the
that
Board of
kind
Health
thing.
kind of
Yes,
thing, so we can
absolutely.
start passing that
All that
along
you know,
and
all
share
of
it.
that sanitation stuff, yeah, that's
Okay.
important. And I do want to, certainly before we close, and I do want to close, you know, fairly quickly, okay? I want to talk about the ongoing events that are happening unpermitted in town, okay? And I want Katie to give your argument.
I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, well, you have to, okay? Because I feel that us promoting it, putting it on Facebook or being involved with it can put us in jeopardy, okay? These things are being done non-permitted, and I don't know if you know, if we should be promoting these things at this point right now, okay? So, throw your argument out about why you think everything up there is okay to do, okay?
Well, the whole thing,
That's it, just, there's no other way around it.
the whole
okay?
thing is if,
There's no other way.
I don't know, like, there's no, hold on. I put my note in to talk to Mallory about that. So, under the farming bylaw right now, on our bylaws, on page 67.
66 and 67?
Yeah, 66 through 68 is the, under general bylaws is our farming, agricultural section. And reading under page 67, under farming shall encompass activities including but not limited to the following.
Hold on, where do you?
This is.
Oh,
on-
I see it.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
the fourth dot down.
Yep.
Conducting agricultural-related educational and farm-based recreational activities, including agritourism, provided that the activities are related to the agricultural output or services of the farm. Okay, so some of our farms do things that are kind of like on the fringe right now.
A little ambiguous.
Yeah, and we're trying to fix that with, this would fix pretty much all of it. But the whole thing is this is rather ambiguous as well. It's, if it's something that they're trying to bring people into their farm to shop at their store and, you know, do their thing and whatever, yoga or pick their blueberries or whatever they're already doing, then if they have other people there to help, whether it be, you know, they have the yoga, or they have, you know, a person staying randomly in a couple RVs or whatever, or they have a little fair that is local crafters, in my mind, it goes along with they're trying to provide activities that help them get people onto their farm with their you know, and they're promoting their agricultural output
Right.
and their services on their farm,
But-
because,
And you said it in the first sentence, you said farming shall encompass activities including, but not
limited to the following.
It's right there in plain English.
Uh-huh.
So, this is where
But
I
don't
think,
a flea market, I don't think a flea market including that. I don't think
no one's
I
having
don't
a
think
flea
vendor- I
market.
don't think a vendor market is, I think that we have to either be really specific, okay? Because when they've got a list of their vendors, and some of their vendors have nothing to do with agricultural, okay? How does that fall in with it? So, do we make a law that says everything must be agriculturally connected?
But they're trying to get people to come to their farm.
That's a nice way to put it, I get it.
Yeah,
okay?
that's my
I-
argument.
I know it is, okay, I get it, but in reality, it is a profitable event for them, having
Not if they're not charging.
well, they weren't last time, but they are this time.
I'm just saying, if
Okay,
they didn't
they
charge.
weren't last time.
It's okay, so if they don't charge,
I don't know, it's still questionable. And it's also questionable about the RVs that are parking on the property. I've gotten a lot of complaints about it,
I've
okay?
gotten zero from
Well-
either farm that has RVs.
That's okay,
So,
that's you and that's me.
I'm just saying.
Okay. And two of the complaints are from people that we know very, very well,
Mhm.
okay? So, where do we draw the line with that kind of thing? I mean, I feel like if they would just take a pass, okay, for this year, and let this go through, okay?
If it goes
What's that?
through. If it goes through.
Well, I mean, really, I
But
think.
you don't understand, they are trying to make up money that they aren't getting because the things that they go do, where they make thousands and thousands of dollars in one weekend, aren't open this year. So that's what they're trying to do, bring people to them because they can't go to the people because their events have been canceled.
I got 2 farms on
Okay.
my road, and I'm here to tell you, if I drove by and saw RVs parked left and right.
But there aren't, that's not what's happening.
Isn't there
Yes,
money
it is.
available from the town, from the federal grant of 1.4 million that this town received for people like a commercial business like that farm that is
First of all,
losing money?
okay, so there has to be a committee set up to even start touching that. We don't even have it yet. We
Why?
don't even have the committee set up
Do they
yet.
have the money?
I don't think we get it yet. It's coming in 2 waves.
So
I
we
don't
should
think
be
we have
doing a committee soon.
Yeah, there's,
What I'm most fearful of right now,
But that
okay,
money's available for
is
that
that
farmer, right?
if this,
well, it has to go through.
if this
the
kind
committee
of stuff continues, they're holding weddings there, they've got these RVs parking in their property, okay, all of this non-permitted, okay, they've got their events. If this continues, okay, and there are complaints coming through, they're never gonna pass this for us. And the town is never gonna vote on it
But out
either.
of 2 people that complained to you, out of, you
No.
know, 5,000.
No, there's just 2 in the last 2 days, there were more before that, okay? So, I'm just trying to jump over a potential problem, okay? Because I think if there are complaints coming through, or there's an issue with it, let's say that if somebody is backing in one of their trailers or whatever, somebody's coming around the curve fat, I don't know,
Boom.
okay? Could be a number of things, okay? I don't want our efforts to be tossed out, you know, because, oh my God, you've got all this stuff going on.
Okay, so you'd rather
already.
be known as anti-farm, anti-business.
Don't call me anti-farm.
I'm just saying,
That's
This-
entertainment.
We can, it could, either way, it's a slippery slope.
It is.
Is this really a relevant question at the moment for a couple things? I don't think the EDC has jurisdiction to do anything over complaints.
Oh, not at all.
No.
That
Not
would
at all.
fall to the CEO
Yeah.
and.
Or the
the
agricultural
CEO,
committee, or the select.
There's
The agricultural
issues
committee.
that are currently related to the IMA between Hubbardson and Gardner that need to be sorted out. And because of some of those issues, there's some stuff like this that's not being enforced.
Right.
And I do not expect would be enforced until the select board addresses the issues with the IMA with Gardner. So, I don't think that there's really a lot that we can do to have a meaningful discussion about this, until the select board figures out how it's going to be.
And I would agree with that, except that, and here we go with the, okay, with the meeting, okay, except that I was told very specifically by the building department, okay, that no such thing is gonna happen. This is what I'm trying to prevent. This is what I'm trying to prevent. I mean, you know, and you know of that conversation.
I just, it's like beating a dead horse right now. There's no win in sight, either way. So I'm just my whole opinion is let's let it solve, it's gotta solve, there's other problems that need to be solved, and
I understand that, but when I got the pushback that I got, because I was, you know, in favor of this, and I was saying, oh, you know, we've made a lot of progress, there's this going on, there's that going on, I got nothing but pushback. You know that,
Yeah.
okay? I got nothing but
yeah.
pushback. It concerns me that, you know, that's going to be enforced at this point. That's what I'm concerned about, that it's going to be enforced. And then, is it gonna be more, if it gets enforced or shut down or whatever, is it gonna make our efforts more difficult to get passed?
I'm not too concerned about
You don't think?
force, no.
I would be very surprised to see an enforcement action brought for anything under
Okay.
the current arrangement we have with Gardner. Because
Oh,
there's,
okay.
there are a couple examples where.
Well, see, it's not
the
only
planning
him.
board-
This goes around the IMA. Because if you read the resolution of dispute under the agricultural committee, okay, you can file it, I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt, but is, any person who seeks to complain about the operation of a farm may, notwithstanding pursuing any other available remedy, file a grievance with the Board of Selectmen, the zoning enforcement officer, or the Board of Health, depending upon the nature of the grievance. Filing the grievance does not suspend the time within which to pursue any other available remedies that the aggrieved may have. The zoning enforcement officer or select board may forward a copy of the grievance to the agricultural commission or agent, which shall review and facilitate the resolution of the grievance. So it doesn't fall on the IMA, or have anything to do with the IMA, because you guys can put it, you can go push it right to the agricultural committee. It says it right here on the bylaw.
The statement I was about to finish making is that
Sorry.
there's currently an illegal junkyard and an illegal kennel operating in town, and there's no enforcement action being taken on those, despite being
Understood.
a priority issue for the planning board.
Yeah, that is,
So, I don't want to comment too much
Yep.
on that.
Brought it up.
But it is a meeting, or rather enforcement is a serious issue we currently have in the town that needs to be looked at. And what you draw from conclusions from that statement as it applies to these people who potentially have problems, that's the only conclusion that you can make. But there are
what do you mean,
currently
it's
some
written right here.
egregious
It's
things.
written- What do you mean, the only conclusion? I know. It's right in the town, it comes under agriculture. I didn't make it, it's just what I read.
Yeah.
So don't down.
But you all, no,
Why
you
talking
also,
down?
you know, but you also, the, the agricultural commission, who's on it,
I know.
you should look who's on it.
Hmm?
You should look up who's on it,
What?
because that might, if it goes directly back to them,
So just shut my mouth?
no, I'm just saying, it's,
But who is it?
they're all farmers. A lot of them are the ones we're talking about.
So, yeah, I see where you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, but it also says.
But
you
I was
go
just trying to make a
Board of
point.
Selectmen.
yes.
It doesn't
So,
have to
what
follow
did the
under
Board
the
of
municipal
Selectmen-
agreement with Gardner. This
Right.
issue.
CEO is
What?
the zoning enforcement officer, the ZEO.
I know who the zoning enforcement officer is. It's the building inspector. But the way this is reads, am I retarded here, or?
No, it can come back, it can be written to us, and we have to kick it over to agricultural.
Right. the Board
Correct,
of
that's what I
Selectmen.
just said.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And he said I.
Well, because everyone points to the zoning
But
enforcement
it has-
officer.
This could have nothing to do with it, because it goes to you, and you
Because
could kick it to agriculture.
realistically, the
It could go to you, it
Yeah.
could go to Board of Health.
but the Board of Health,
Could go to you, could go to
Okay.
the
the Board
building.
of Health, not, the select board, none of us actually have powers of zoning enforcement. The only person that does is a zoning enforcement officer. So even though the complaint has come to us,
Yep.
and we can write up resolutions and stuff, we have no powers of actually enforcing it. The zoning officer is the one that has to enforce.
And he's the one who said to me, I got a problem with this.
Yeah,
I've got a problem with
but
this.
if he's not enforcing zoning,
Okay, but do we want to risk that? That's what I'm saying.
it's not us to risk.
That's not something that's within the jurisdiction of this board.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just kind of, looking at this as for like a courtesy
We can't, but we
standpoint.
can't tell people what to do.
Right, okay. But if we know that there's gonna be, a potential shutdown or something, we just let it fly, right? Just wing it, okay?
It's not
I'm
our
okay with
business to run.
I'm only, that I've gone through this, that I
Yes.
went to Dan, that I brought this up, for conversation, okay? And for clarification more than anything, because there was nothing more shocking to me than to have somebody look at me and say that the three hot topics that we're working on were an absolute, let me squash you right here in the parking lot, okay? That's what I'm working against, that's what I'm trying to overcome, and see what we can do to protect this from, you know, from
I
happening.
understand where you're coming, I
And-
get what you're saying,
Right,
yes.
and so we should really just leave it alone and
Yep.
just kind of let it fly,
Blind
yeah?
eye,
Okay,
just like everything else in this town.
okay.
Keep a blind eye to it.
I don't know, you know, I mean,
Well, the whole thing is,
that was like a punch to the gut, as you know, when that happened, okay?
but that's what I mean, that needs to be brought up,
Right,
like you did,
yeah,
to the proper channels, which
Right.
would be the chair of the select board.
correct.
That this is a problem, that's going to, this is what we're working on, and if our efforts are gonna be thwarted for,
What's the point?
why are we here?
Right,
We're here, you know,
Exactly.
past, before Chris's bedtime, sorry, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. But you know what I mean, like,
Yes, I
then
do.
why are we bothering?
yes, I
If
do.
we can't, and that's the whole point. So that's why the email to Dan as the chair of the select board and also David to the town administrator.
Right.
So that way it's on record that this is our problems, this is our concerns, this is where we stand, this is what we're working on, and this
Okay,
is what
but
we
you
can
can
do.
see how it weighs heavily, okay?
But
To be
you're-
told that,
It's certainly not good for what we're trying to
I
accomplish.
know, I
That
know.
is completely, totally accurate.
Excellent.
This committee doesn't have any ability to enforce anything related to it.
Is there a way that we can enforce him not enforcing something?
We can keep poking Dan. That's really the action, it's to keep poking Dan, be like, what's
Yeah,
going
we
on?
filed a complaint, he didn't go to our meeting.
Oh.
Yeah, no, yeah, he refused.
And it's under his job description to be there when
Okay,
requested.
so you can see where I'm coming from, as that, you know, always in the back of my mind, oh, this is gonna turn into a show, okay? You know, and how do we avoid that?
Well,
And
shit shows
then-
are fun, come on.
And then if we're involved with, you know, helping them, whatever, are we gonna be, you know, made to suffer for this, so to speak? You know what I mean? I don't want that. I don't, you know, it was so shocking to me, that
And
whole
that's why,
conversation.
I think this is even more important, these bylaws to fix, to help our small businesses
Of
and our
course.
farms and stuff like that. We really need for, you know, to fix the housing, to fix the farms, to fix, you know, these little tweaks of zoning. We don't have to rewrite the whole
They're
damn
not
book,
gonna be
but we
little
gotta tweak
tweaks. I
some
think
stuff.
that we're gonna need to be really, really specific in this, you know what I mean? And not be ambiguous, not leave anything open for, well, what if, how come, wait a minute, my neighbor, this and that. We need to really
Well, that's
just-
why there's, well, at least in that farm one, the
Yeah.
accessory use, there's a level of protection.
Right,
They have to go through for the bigger stuff, through
Right.
the plan.
right.
You know,
Okay.
and depending on how the planning board looks at it, if they have a well thought out plan, which a lot of people do, especially if you're paying big bucks to do this stuff. Not everyone does, because I've watched it on the planning board and I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? You know,
Yeah,
but if you're gonna throw money at something, you should, you know, have the well thought out plan and
Of course.
you gotta think about these
Of
things.
course.
And if not, they're gonna tell you that's gonna be a problem and you need to
Yeah.
fix X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Does the Rutland language address these situations that you're concerned about? Because I'm not sure that it does if you're talking about something other than farm days.
Yeah, it has under the events. It'd be a special event.
Oh, so I guess you're taking it under the.
It would be, I would look at it as a special event.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Concerts, festivals, and special events, and you'd have to specify what your special event is,
Okay,
obviously.
that makes sense, as
Yeah.
opposed to doing like a regular swap or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
no,
you had
that-
a
that makes
little,
sense.
you know, maker's market or a little craft festival or,
Use my
you know,
Maker's
vendor
Market
fair
slogan.
or something.
Don't do it, Katie. My
What?
Maker's Market
Oh.
belongs to me.
I'm sorry,
Not do
I was
it.
just using the word, I'm
Not
sorry.
do it.
But you know what I mean? If
Yeah,
they
I do.
had, but if they had something, a crafters festival or
Look.
whatever.
You know, it's
Yeah.
out there, I've said it, I've voiced my concerns about what I was told.
And it's none of our business.
And I'm okay with that as well, okay? I mean, simply based on, but that was something that has been in my mind, you know, all this time, and I'm just waiting for
You know
some.
how many people do
I
illegal
do.
things
I do.
all the time in this
Stop.
town, not only this town, but every town.
I know.
I mean, you're never gonna find, you know, because either A, they don't know, B, they don't care, C, they're speeding through, you know, trying to build a house and they didn't have the foundation looked at for the, call for the inspection and they backfilled it and now, okay, we gotta, you know,
The
Pick it up.
three things, what was going on with, getting involved and having the farms be able to do things. the Airbnb, and the one other thing, I can't remember what, and within 5 minutes, it was just like,
Yeah.
you're not, you're not, you're not, you're not, you're not, and I thought, mother of Lord, what
Well,
the hell are
and
we
that's the whole
doing?
thing, we have to put in the reasons in place. We can, we can, we can, we can.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If we
Yeah.
put it in place, then, and get it into our, either
It
our
has to be
bylaws or our
enforced.
zoning,
yeah, but
then,
between now and then, I didn't
It's
want any
fine.
fallout from it, I didn't
I,
want,
that's understood.
you know,
I
somebody
totally
to just get a bug up there, whatever, and decide, you know, because I did. I mean, whether it was right or wrong, I mean, I said to him, well, no, we're already doing this and that. And he just looked at me and said, no, you're not.
too late,
And that's that.
cat's already out of the bag.
We
All
gotta-
right.
We gotta go home.
Okay,
I get it, I got it, we're good, I
all
think.
right, who's calling for the meeting?
Somebody.
Motion?
Second.
No, you have to make a motion.
I make a
Motion
You
to
have to make a
adjourn.
motion. She can't, okay.
I second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
9:04.
All right,